Chapter 571. Somewhere in the barren forbidden area. Chu Kuangren slowly walked on the mountain path. With his treasure-locating skill activated, he could immediately sense any treasures around him and went to collect them. Whether it was the barren forbidden area or the 10,000 Wonders Grotto Heaven, they were all excellent places for Chu Kuangren to search for treasures. Suddenly, his communication artifact vibrated. He picked up the compass and checked the message. Then, his lips curled into a playful smile. Since Jian Daozi noticed Jian Changfeng's abnormality, it seems he's not that stupid after all. Chu Kuangren was not too surprised by that. Not to mention Jian Changfeng, even if the magic sword guards were discovered, it would not be a loss to him. Both of them were members of the swordsmen. Whether they betrayed him or died, the swordsman would only feel sorry for them. As for Chu Kuangren, he was only treating it as a game. Jian Daozi, help me search for the Sword Emperor's opportunity of fortune. Chu Kuangren chuckled. At another place, Jian Daozi had led a group of swordsmen to a mountain range. At the end of this mountain range is where the Azure Sword Emperor is. Rumor has it that the Azure Sword Emperor died in closed-door meditation, unable to live a second life. Once I refine the 4 Divine Water and Fire Sword Primordial, my 4 Divine Sword Dao will be able to reach the full completion level. Jian Daozi said excitedly. The 4 Divine Sword Dao was the Dao that he walked on. It was inherited from an ancient inheritance that he obtained many years ago. The 4 Divine Sword Primordial was a treasure that Jian Daozi found in the ancient books of his tribe. It contained the power of the 4 sword Daos of earth, wind, water, and fire. However, during an ancient war it was divided into 4 parts. Among them, the Wind Sword Primordial was in Jian Daozi's inheritance. After searching for many years, he finally found the Earth Sword Primordial and went into closed-door meditation to refine that sword primordial. The last Water and Fire Sword Primordial were said to be in the hands of the Azure Sword Emperor. That was also the reason why he wanted the green glass magic lamp. It was the only way to find the Azure Sword Emperor. Beside him, Jian Changfeng's eyes flashed when he heard Jian Daozi's words. Jian Changfeng followed behind the group and sent a message to Chu Kuangren, telling him the location of the Azure Sword Emperor. Not long after, Jian Changfeng discovered that something was amiss. They had already passed the mountain range, but they did not stop. Instead, they continued to move forward into the distance. The Azure Mystic Sword Emperor was nowhere in the mountain range Jian Daozi had mentioned. He wanted to continue reporting to Chu Kuangren, but he was being watched by the concealed sword guards, so he had no chance to do so. Jian Changfeng felt extremely anxious, but there was nothing he could do. He knew that Jian Daozi had already sensed that something was off about him. He had fallen into Jian Daozi's trap. Jian Daozi had used him to send Chu Kuangren false information. Along the way, Jian Daozi sent people to keep an eye on Jian Changfeng. Then they arrived at a strange forest shrouded in black mist. The black mist in the forest was a kind of restriction. It was not a natural restriction of the desolate forbidden land, but a man-made restriction. Found it? This is the true location of the Azure Profound Sword Emperor. Lord Daoist, this black fog seems a little strange. The Phantom Sword Guard looked at the black mist and frowned. Let the traitor go in and test the waters first. Jian Daozi said indifferently. The traitor he was referring to was naturally Jian Changfeng. Soon, Jian Changfeng was escorted by the concealed sword guards. I'm curious, what did Chu Kuangren offer you to betray the swordsman for him? Jian Daozi said coldly. As soon as he said that, the news of Jian Changfeng being a traitor spread throughout the crowd, causing an uproar among the swordsmen. However, Jian Changfeng merely smiled. Jian Daozi, you can't defeat our master. Master? Jian Daozi's expression turned grim. You've acknowledged him as your master? Being bought by Chu Kuangren and acknowledging Chu Kuangren as their master were 2 completely different concepts. The latter would be a bigger blow to the swordsman. The swordsman's top sky pride had acknowledged someone else as his master, and that person was the swordsman's enemy. If word of this got out, the reputation of the swordsman would be greatly affected. Throw him in. Jian Daozi yelled. The concealed sword guard immediately slapped Jian Changfeng's body, sending him into the black mist. The sudden appearance of an outsider caused the black mist to react. The black mist rumbled and formed surges of black sword chi that flew towards Jian Changfeng. The surges of sword chi were extremely sharp. Even though Jian Changfeng's strength was outstanding, he was quickly defeated by the encirclement of the sword chi. With a loud crack, Jian Changfeng's arm was torn apart by one of the sword chi. Jian Changfeng's momentary distraction caused him to be completely torn apart by the sword chi, and he died on the spot. Jian Daozi's expression did not change at all. All he had done was kill a traitor. However, this black mist was a little tricky to deal with. These sword chi are too powerful. It won't be easy to break in. Jian Daozi frowned. Then, he looked at the evergreen fairy lamp in his hand. Suddenly, he thought of something and channeled his spiritual power. Within the evergreen fairy lamp, a flame shot out. Wherever the flame went, the black mist automatically retreated. As expected, this evergreen fairy lamp is the key to isolating this black mist. Jian Daozi's eyes lit up. Then, he lifted the evergreen fairy lamp and walked deeper into the black mist. Wherever he went, the black mist automatically retreated. The swordsman behind him followed suit. The only thing left was Jian Changfeng's corpse. After a while, a small wooden puppet the size of a palm suddenly walked out of the corpse. Fortunately, I had a stroke of luck in my early years and obtained a soul transfer technique. Before I died, I transferred my soul into this wooden puppet. Otherwise, I would have died here today. That wooden puppet, which was Jian Changfeng, said with lingering fear. However, at that moment, the surrounding black mist began to circulate, and the black mist sword chi once again condensed. No way. I'm already in this state, and this black mist sword chi still wants to kill me? Jian Changfeng's wooden puppet had a horrified look on its face. If this wooden puppet were to shatter, there would be nothing he could do to save the situation. The sword chi shot out. Since Jian Changfeng's physical body had been destroyed, the remaining wooden puppet's combat power was almost zero. Could not fight back at all. Just as the sword chi was about to shatter the wooden puppet, a sword chi suddenly shot out from the sky and protected the wooden puppet, shattering the black mist sword chi one by one. This sword chi is master. Jian Changfeng was overjoyed as he turned to look into the distance. He saw Chu Kuangren stepping on the air and slowly walking towards Jian Changfeng. He looked at him playfully. How did you turn into a figurine? Figurine? What was that? Jian Changfeng was puzzled. However, he did not think too much about it and knelt in front of Chu Kuangren. Greetings, master. My identity has been exposed. Jian Changfeng then told Chu Kuangren everything that had happened. Alright, I know everything now. Chu Kuangren was not surprised by Jian Changfeng's words at all. Instead, it was Jian Daozi who surprised Jian Changfeng. Besides, Jian Daozi had clearly given him the wrong location, so how did Chu Kuangren find his way here? Could it be? Jian Changfeng suddenly thought of something. There are still spies within the swordsman? Yes. Chu Kuangren nodded. Chapter 572. After passing through the black mist, Jian Daozi and the cultivators of the sword race arrived at a strange place. It was a spatial secret realm that had been created by someone. There were mountains, rivers, and a palace. The palace was surrounded by sword scars, each of which contained a sharp sword-based Taoist rhyme, as well as an emperor's might. These were the sword scars left behind by the sword emperor. That was what Jian Daozi and the others thought when they arrived at the palace. They looked at the sword scars with burning eyes. These were the sword scars left behind by the sword emperor, and they contained the Tao of the sword emperor. If they could comprehend them, it would definitely be of great benefit to their cultivation. Among them, Jian Daozi's cultivation base in the Tao of the sword was the highest. When he saw the sword scars, a strange look appeared in his eyes. These sword scars are messy and disorderly. It's almost as if someone was slashing at them with a sword. No, it would be more accurate to say that someone was slashing at them randomly to vent. Jian Daozi said. He could sense anger, hatred, and a strong sense of unwillingness from the sword scars. Ignore these sword scars for now. Let's enter the palace and take a look. Jian Daozi said and led the others into the palace. A skeleton was sitting cross-legged in the palace, and its body emanated an extremely powerful emperor's might. That skeleton was the sword emperor of Azure Mystic. He had already died. Sword scars were also crisscrossing around the skeleton, exuding a strong sense of unwillingness. 2 lines of words were written on one of the pillars. I've meditated for 10,000 years and my lifespan is almost up, but I still can't live a second life. I hate it. Qing Li, forgive me for not being able to see you again. Everyone finally understood what was going on when they saw the 2 lines of words. Those sword scars were indeed left behind by the sword emperor of Azure Mystic. He was venting his unwillingness to live a second life. Legend has it that even emperors have a limited lifespan. Once they reach the end of their lifespan, they can only die if they can't live a second life. The hidden sword guard could not help but sigh. He seemed to be affected by the sorrow and unwillingness contained in the sword scars around him, and he felt a little melancholic. Even emperors would die one day. In this world, was there really no one who could live as long as heaven and earth? Could the legendary immortals do? The hidden sword guards did not understand, and the rest of them did not have an answer either. However, everyone's thoughts quickly returned from the emotions of the emperor's death and focused on the emperor's corpse in front of them. This was the corpse of an emperor. Even though it didn't have any flesh or blood and was only a skeleton, it was still extremely precious. What about the four-symbol sword essence? Compared to the sword emperor's corpse, Jian Daozi cared more about the four-manifestation sword origin, which was related to his own Dao. He activated the exquisite 9 orifices sword heart and quickly sensed the existence of the four-symbol sword essence in the palace. So it's here. Jian Daozi raised his hand and circulated his spiritual power. 2 fist-sized beads, one red and one blue, flew out from the azure mystic sword emperor's corpse. There was a sharp sword-based Taoist rhyme surging on them. However, one of them leaned towards gentleness, like an endless stream of water, while the other was like fire, fierce and domineering, extremely invasive. This was the water and fire sword essence of the four-symbol sword essence. I finally found it. Jian Daozi's eyes were filled with joy as he grabbed the 2 sword essences. Chu Kuangren, as long as I refine these 2 sword essences, I won't be afraid of you anymore, Jian Daozi said excitedly. However, a light orb suddenly flew out from the sword emperor's corpse. Could this be the sword emperor's inheritance? Jian Daozi was overjoyed. I didn't expect to find something like this other than the four-symbol sword essence. He raised his hand and grabbed the light orb. Within the light orb, there were countless Taoist rhymes circulating. Any one of these Taoist rhymes was enough to benefit a boundary emperor. It was extremely mysterious. The four-symbol sword essence and this sword emperor's inheritance. Fate is on my side. This opportunity of fortune is extremely rare even in the barren forbidden area. Chu Kuangren, let's see how you're going to fight me now. Jian Daozi was so excited that he immediately absorbed the light orb into his body. He already had the exquisite 9 orifices sword heart, so he had a natural affinity with sword Dao. This sword emperor's inheritance would take a long time for others to digest. However, it was not necessary for Jian Daozi. A large amount of the sword emperor's insights continued to surge into Jian Daozi's mind, enhancing his understanding of sword Dao. Beside him, the mystic sword sentinel watched anxiously. She did not expect Jian Daozi's opportunity of fortune to be this big. The four-symbol sword essence and the sword emperor's inheritance. This was enough to elevate Jian Daozi's strength to a terrifying level. She was worried that this would pose a threat to Chu Kuangren. Since he's refining the sword emperor's inheritance, why don't I kill him right here and now? A cold murderous intent flashed across the mystic sword sentinel's eyes. However, she quickly suppressed that thought. No, Jian Daozi's 2 dark guards were here. She was no match for just one covert sword sentinel. There was no way she could hurt Jian Daozi. Suddenly, Jian Daozi let out a soft gasp as if he had sensed something. How can this be? Why would he suddenly appear here? There's no way he's here. Jian Daozi's eyes revealed a hint of panic. He had sensed another exquisite 9 orifices sword heart approaching. In this world, who else but Chu Kuangren could possess another exquisite 9 orifices sword heart? However, Chu Kuangren had clearly been tricked by him into going somewhere else, and Jian Changfeng was dead as well. How did he appear here? Jian Daozi was puzzled, but he was currently refining the sword emperor's inheritance. He said, Chu Kuangren is here. Help me block him. Upon hearing that, everyone's expression changed. Before they could ask any questions, a piercingly cold sword-based Taoist rhyme had already swept towards them from afar. Such a strong sword-based Taoist rhyme. It's really Chu Kuangren. We mustn't let him disturb Master Daozi. Everyone was shocked. Only the mystic sword sentinel had a hint of joy in her eyes. Master is finally here. A black figure walked out from the void. This person looked old, but the domineering aura on his body was extremely dense. It was several times stronger than the covert sword sentinel. That domineering aura in particular was filled with a sense of deathly stillness that sent chills down everyone's spines. This person was one of Jian Daozi's 3 great dark guards, the Withered Sword Sentinel. The Withered Sword Sentinel was one of the strongest in the swordsman tribe, and he could even be compared to the swordsman tribe leader. The fact that the Withered Sword Sentinel was willing to stay by Jian Daozi's side showed how much the swordsman tribe valued Jian Daozi. Under the Withered Sword Sentinel's lead, everyone walked out of the palace and prepared to fight Chu Kuangren. Not far from them, a white-robed, black-haired figure slowly walked out from the black mist. Behind him was a strange wooden puppet. It was Chu Kuangren and his figurine Jian Changfeng. The surrounding black mist turned into sharp sword chi that slashed towards Chu Kuangren. However, it automatically disintegrated when it was 30 feet away from him. Could not hurt him at all. Everyone could clearly see that there was a sword chi that was even sharper than the black mist sword chi that circulated around this person. It was this sword chi that shattered the black mist sword chi. Everyone from the swordsman tribe even came out to welcome me. I'm flattered. Chu Kuangren smiled at the swordsman tribe members who were ready for battle. Chapter 573. Chu Kuangren, how did you find this place? The hidden sword guards were puzzled. They had clearly used Jian Changfeng to send false information to Chu Kuangren, so how could he still find this place? Guess. Could it be that you have spies in the sword clan? The withered sword guard seemed to have thought of something, and his expression changed drastically. At this moment, a coquettish chuckle suddenly rang out. The mystic sword guard suddenly attacked and killed off 2 sword clan cultivators. By the time the withered sword guard noticed it, it was already too late. The mystic sword sentinel turned into a ghostly figure and instantly disappeared from where he stood. He then appeared in front of Chu Kuangren and knelt down on one knee. Greetings, master. The scene before them shattered the worldview of the cultivators of the sword race. Forget about Jian Changfeng. Even the mystic sword guards had submitted to Chu Kuangren. This was just too unbelievable. It should be known that the mystic sword guards were even more outstanding than Jian Changfeng. They possessed the peerless fallen darkness body and were the future pillars of the sword race. Not only that, but they also knew that the mystic sword guard was madly infatuated with Jian Daozi. Why did she turn to another man now? What the hell is going on? Jian Changfeng and the mystic sword sentinel. Why would 2 of our swordsman tribe's top sky prides acknowledge Chu Kuangren as their master? The withered sword guard's face turned green. Chu Kuangren, what have you done to the mystic sword guards? The hidden sword guard asked loudly. Chu Kuangren replied calmly, you can ask them yourself. Mystic sword sentinel, what kind of benefits did Chu Kuangren give you? Or did Chu Kuangren have something on you? Someone questioned the Mei sword guard. I am willing to follow and serve master. Master is my everything. The mystic sword sentinel said. When he looked at Chu Kuangren, his eyes were filled with a crazed infatuation and worship that was 1,000 times more intense than when he looked at Jian Daozi. When everyone saw this, they couldn't help but feel a chill run from the soles of their feet to the top of their heads, causing their scalps to go numb. Even the experienced and knowledgeable withered sword guards couldn't help but feel terrified at this moment. Chu Kuangren was just too strange. No matter who it is, anyone who betrays the sword clan must die. As the hidden sword guard spoke, his figure disappeared into the void. Hidden sword guards, as the name suggested, were experts in concealment. They were the best at assassination among the shadow sword guards. Most of the cultivators were killed by the hidden sword guards before they could even react. Swoosh! A sword ray instantly pierced towards Chu Kuangren. The speed was fast and the angle was tricky. It was the essence of the word, assassination, to the fullest. With a clang, sparks flew. It was not Chu Kuangren who made the first move. Instead, it was the mystic sword sentinel who stood in front of the concealed sword sentinels. You aren't fit to fight with master. Do you have any concealment techniques? I'm good at it too. The mystic sword guard sneered, and a dark aura emanated from her body. Humph, then I'll kill you first, traitor. The hidden sword guard snorted coldly and began to fight with the mystic sword guard. The 2 of them changed positions in the void, and sword aura after sword aura shot out. Chu Kuangren looked at the withered sword guards and said, I'm in a hurry so you guys can come at me together. Everyone knew that Chu Kuangren was not easy to deal with, so of course, none of them wanted to fight him alone. In an instant, surges of sword chi erupted from the sword clan cultivators and intertwined in the void, forming into a dense sword net that enveloped Chu Kuangren. This sword net was formed by the sword-based Taoist rhymes of every sword cultivator present, and it was extremely powerful. Even a boundary emperor would not be able to escape from this sword net. However, Chu Kuangren did not budge an inch. Instead, a surge of sword chi burst out from his body and tore that powerful sword net apart with just a casual surge of sword chi. Not only that, but the sword chi flew towards the sword clan cultivators like a hot knife through butter. Several clouds of blood mist exploded on the spot. What? What a terrifying sword chi. Everyone was shocked. They had experienced Jian Daozi's strength before. They also knew how powerful the exquisite 9 orifices sword heart was. However, Jian Daozi's sword chi was still far from Chu Kuangren's. Slash. With a cold roar, the withered sword sentinel made his move. With a slash of his sword, A grayish-white sword ray filled with a terrifying deathly intent tore through the sky and headed towards Chu Kuangren. As the strongest cultivator in the Sword Clan, his cultivation level had already reached the level of a top-notch boundary emperor. Compared to the emperors, he was only lacking in terms of Taoist Tao. The Great Mastery Tao? What a shame. If you could achieve the Great Mastery Tao, then it might be worth watching. Chu Kuangren slowly raised his hand and clasped two of his fingers together. Then he formed a sword finger and gently slashed at the grayish-white sword ray. A streak of dazzling purple sword light whizzed out. The two sword rays collided in the void. The purple sword ray tore through the grayish-white sword ray like a hot knife through butter and headed towards the withered sword sentinel. How is this possible? The withered sword sentinel's eyes narrowed as he swung his long sword at the purple sword ray. With a clang, the withered sword sentinel's sword flew out of his hand, and he was sent flying before he crashed into the palace wall. With a loud boom, the wall cracked, and the withered sword sentinel spat out a mouthful of blood as several of his bones were broken. He looked at Chu Kuangren in shock. He had heard of Chu Kuangren's combat strength before. He knew that if Chu Kuangren were to use his emperor weapon, no one below the emperor realm would be a match for him. However, Chu Kuangren did not even have to use his emperor weapon. Chu Kuangren had already defeated him with just a sword chi. That was just too terrifying. He's even more terrifying than the rumors say. I can't believe he has improved so much in such a short time. Even with the help of the earth vein essence, how can he refine it so quickly? The withered sword sentinel looked at the calm Chu Kuangren and knew that he and the others could not stop him. He gritted his teeth, and a powerful surge of energy erupted from his body. Dark red blood-colored flames were ignited around him. I won't let you disturb the Taoist disciple even if I have to sacrifice my life today. The withered sword sentinel said ferociously. Chu Kuangren activated his Eye of Revelation and could tell that the withered sword sentinel had used some kind of secret technique to forcefully increase his spiritual power. However, the price he had to pay was his lifespan. That technique was similar to the 9 Deaths blazing blood art that Chu Kuangren had previously learned. However, it was much more mysterious. Die. The withered sword sentinel turned into a sword ray and charged at Chu Kuangren. The sword-based Taoist rhyme on his body surged, and the dark red blood-colored flames burned on his body. It then condensed into a gigantic sword shadow that exuded a terrifying sword pressure that could destroy everything in its path. The withered sword sentinel had turned his body into a sword and unleashed the most powerful attack in his entire life. Your courage is commendable, but it's useless. Chu Kuangren said calmly. The descendant's self-sword at his waist was unsheathed, and a purple sword ray slashed across the sky like a crescent moon. It was breathtaking and beautiful. At the same time, a gush of blood spurted out. The sword shadow on the withered sword sentinel's body was torn apart, and his entire body was sliced in half by Chu Kuangren's sword. The scene before them was extremely horrifying. The crowd of swordsman cultivators trembled in fear. They felt that the handsome black-haired Chu Kuangren in front of them was an Ashura demon that had just walked out of hell. Chapter 574. The withered sword sentinel used his body as a sword, but he was still sliced in half by Chu Kuangren's sword. Chu Kuangren's unparalleled strength shocked and terrified every swordsman cultivator present. They looked at him as if they were looking at an Ashura demon. Withered sword sentinel. Not far away, the covert sword sentinel's eyes were bloodshot when he saw how easily the withered sword sentinel was killed by Chu Kuangren. He forced the mystic sword sentinel back with a single swing of his sword before he turned into a stream of light and sped towards Chu Kuangren. The stream of light would disappear and reappear in the void at times. It was unpredictable and very strange. In the blink of an eye, the stream of light had already arrived in front of Chu Kuangren. What's the point of changing here and there? Chu Kuangren said as he swung the descendant self-sword in his hand, which landed right in front of the covert sword sentinel. It seemed like a casual attack, but it had sealed all of the covert sword sentinel's movements, rendering him unable to use his movement technique at all. Once the sword was unleashed, the covert sword sentinel was instantly torn apart by the sword chi. It looked like the covert sword sentinel was killed by Chu Kuangren on his own accord. Gulp. The crowd gulped in disbelief. The strongest among them were the withered sword sentinel and the covert sword sentinel. However, both of them were easily killed by Chu Kuangren with a single swing of his sword. They posed no threat to him at all. Chu Kuangren was unstoppable. We're no match for him at all. He's too strong. D***eminent. With such combat strength, he must be an Emperor Realm cultivator. This guy is too scary. Chu Kuangren walked towards the palace under the fearful gazes of the swordsman cultivators. However, at that moment Chu Kuangren suddenly felt a strange movement around him. The sword scars that were scattered around him gradually emitted an extremely powerful and sharp sword pressure. Moreover, this sword pressure had locked onto Chu Kuangren. Jian Daozi, what kind of surprise can you bring me with such power? Chu Kuangren looked at the palace with excitement in his eyes. A dazzling sword ray suddenly erupted from within the palace, forming a majestic sword chi pillar. In the palace, a golden figure slowly walked out. This person had an unstoppable sword chi like a high and mighty sword god king, filled with monstrous sword chi pressure. In his hand, there was a light green ancient longsword. It was an emperor weapon, the emperor weapon used by the Azure Profound Sword Emperor, the Azure Profound Divine Sword. This person was none other than Jian Daozi, who had already refined more than half of the Sword Emperor's legacy. Chu Kuangren, I don't care how you found this place, but today you shall be defeated, Jian Daozi said in high spirits. He gently moved the divine sword in his hand, and the sword Taoist rhymes contained in the sword marks around him erupted and shot up into the sky. This was the Sword Emperor's Tao. After refining the Sword Emperor's legacy, Jian Daozi was now able to control the Sword Emperor's Tao within the sword slashes. I shall let you experience the Azure Profound Divine Sword's dissatisfaction. Jian Daozi raised the Azure Profound Divine Sword in his hand, and the surrounding Sword Emperor's Tao surged towards him, condensing into a giant green sword shadow. A dense Emperor's aura emanated from it, along with a strong sense of dissatisfaction and hatred. It was the Sword Emperor's dissatisfaction at not being able to live a second life. Jian Daozi let out a long roar as his spiritual power gushed out and merged with the Sword Emperor's Tao, making the sword shadow even more corporeal as it slashed towards Chu Kuangren. Before the sword shadow landed, it had already set off a violent gust of wind. Jian Changfeng, the figurine, could not help but grab onto Chu Kuangren's clothes and shake him in the air. Even the magic sword sentinel had to channel his spiritual power to barely defend himself. However, Chu Kuangren did not even take a step back. His jet black hair fluttered in the wind, and there was not a single trace of fear on his handsome face. The Sword Emperor's Tao, huh? Then let me have a good taste of it. Chu Kuangren deflected the descendant self-sword in his hand and unleashed a slash. A dazzling purple sword ray swept out majestically. That sword attack contained Chu Kuangren's Tao of invincibility. That sword attack was the heaven-slaying sword drawing technique sword ray, and it was the sword of invincibility. The purple sword ray and the green sword shadow collided in the void, and the terrifying impact caused the surrounding buildings to explode. The crowd of swordsman cultivators could not help but retreat under the impact. Chu Kuangren and Jian Daozi were the first to bear the brunt of the impact. Chu Kuangren had the Supreme Sage's body, so his physical body was extremely strong. He was not afraid of the impact, but Jian Daozi could not help but bleed from the corner of his mouth as he was forced to retreat dozens of feet. When the sword chi dissipated, everyone saw that Chu Kuangren was still standing on the same spot. His white robe was still the same as before. On the other hand, most of the swordsman cultivators had fallen to the ground. Even Jian Daozi himself was half kneeling on the ground with blood dripping from the corner of his mouth. It can't be. Even the Sword Emperor's Tao can't do anything to this person? How can he be so powerful? The swordsman cultivators looked at Chu Kuangren with shock in their eyes. Jian Changfeng and the mystic sword sentinel stood behind Chu Kuangren. Their eyes were filled with admiration and respect when they saw the slender white-robed figure. The Sword Emperor's Tao is indeed extraordinary. However, with the passage of time, how much of the Tao in this sword scar can there be left? And you're not the Sword Emperor either. Chu Kuangren looked at Jian Daozi and said calmly. The Taoists left behind by the Sword Emperor were truly extraordinary. However, the power of the Taoists contained within the sword slashes had been weakened by the passage of time. Furthermore, Jian Daozi had only been able to draw upon the power of the Azure Profound God's Word and the exquisite 9 orifices sword heart. In the end, he was not the Sword Emperor, and the two of them were far inferior. Let's go. Seeing that he could not kill Chu Kuangren even with the Sword Emperor's Tao, Jian Daozi immediately decided to leave. Although he had obtained the Sword Emperor's inheritance, he had not fully refined it, so he was no match for Chu Kuangren. Now he needed to find a place to digest the Sword Emperor's inheritance and refine the two sword primes. When that time came, he would definitely be able to fight Chu Kuangren. Where do you think you can go? In a flash, Chu Kuangren cast the space conveyor technique and instantly appeared in front of Jian Daozi. Sword of Tempest, Sword of Earth. Jian Daozi yelled as two dazzling rays of light suddenly erupted from his body. Two pearls, one green and one yellow, flew out from his body and turned into two sword rays that headed towards Chu Kuangren. One of them contained the power of a storm, while the other was extremely heavy as if it contained the boundless mountains and rivers. They were the Wind Sword Primes and the Earth Sword Primes. "Oh, so this is your opportunity of fortune?" Chu Kuangren said indifferently. He raised his hand and unleashed a sword attack, sending the two sword rays flying away. However, he did not take a single step back. D***MN. If this goes on, I won't be able to escape. Jian Daozi's expression was a little gloomy. He once again took out the Water and Fire Sword Primes that he had obtained from the Azure Profound Sword Emperor's corpse. Although he had yet to fully refine the two sword primes, he could still use them with the exquisite 9 Orifices Sword Heart's special characteristics. Jian Daozi let out a cold cry and activated his Daoist physique transformation. The Sword of the Heavens above his head then tossed out the Water and Fire Sword Primes. The two sword primes resonated with the Wind and Earth Sword Primes and circled around the Sword of the Heavens. In the end, the Sword of the Heavens carried an incredibly majestic power of the 4 elements and headed towards Chu Kuangren. "If that's the case, I'll gladly accept these 4 sword primes of yours." Chu Kuangren's eyes lit up as he took out the sacred emerald sword case. 24 long swords flew out from it and formed the 4-season sword formation. The sword formation and the sword primes collided. The power of the 4 seasons and the 4 elements intertwined, causing the surroundings to be lit up in a dazzling light. Chapter 575. The 4-symbol sword origin collided with the power of the 4-season sword formation, instantly illuminating the sky with a dazzling radiance. Then Jian Daozi saw that the 4 sword primes were trapped in the middle of the 24 longswords. No matter how hard he tried, he could not break free. D***MN, Chu Kuangren is trying to steal my sword primes. Jian Daozi's expression changed drastically. The sword primes were treasures that he had painstakingly obtained. They were closely linked to his 4 divine sword Dao, so he could not afford to lose them. However, the 4-season sword formation was an emperor-grade sword formation. Although it was not the highest form of the 365 solar terms, Chu Kuangren's current cultivation level was enough to trap the 4 sword primes. Jian Daozi could not summon them back no matter how hard he tried. D***MN. At that moment, Jian Daozi's hatred for Chu Kuangren had reached its peak. However, he knew that if he continued to stay here, not only would he lose the sword primes, but he would also lose his life. "Chu Kuangren, I'll make you pay for this in the future." Jian Daozi gritted his teeth. While Chu Kuangren was controlling the sword formation to trap the sword primes, he turned into a sword ray and flew away. Chu Kuangren was about to give chase, but the 4 sword primes suddenly unleashed a terrifying surge of sword Dao energy that crashed into the sword formation. "Oh, this is a good treasure indeed." Chu Kuangren narrowed his eyes and channeled his spiritual power into the sword formation, slowly suppressing that surge of sword Dao energy. As for the other swordsmen, they took this opportunity to escape, but they were stopped by the Phantom Swordsman. "Phantom Swordsman, you traitor. D***MN, die." The group of swordsmen and the Phantom Swordsman began to fight again. Intense sword chi danced everywhere. When Chu Kuangren had completely suppressed the 4 sword primes, he grabbed them in his palm and glanced at the swordsman below. With a wave of his sleeves, surges of sword chi rained down on them like torrential rain. Soon the group of swordsmen fell one by one under the sword chi. They did not even have the strength to resist. "Master, Jian Daozi has escaped. What should we do now?" the Phantom Swordsman said. With Jian Daozi gone, the fact that she was a spy would be exposed. She could no longer return to the swordsman tribe. "It doesn't matter. I can kill him the next time I see him. As for you, stay by my side for the time being." To Chu Kuangren, Jian Daozi was just a tool to kill time. When he was bored, he would play a game with the other party. When he didn't feel like playing anymore, he would just casually kill him the next time he met him. In the face of absolute power, no one could do anything. "Yes, master." Upon hearing that they could follow Chu Kuangren, a hint of joy flashed across the mystic sword sentinel's eyes. "These 4 sword essences are not bad. I plan to refine them here. You can protect me here," Chu Kuangren said indifferently. After the arrangements were made, Chu Kuangren walked into the palace, intending to refine the sword origin. As for the corpse of the Azure Mystic Sword Emperor, it was nowhere to be seen, presumably taken away by Jian Daozi. If he could refine the corpse of an emperor, Jian Daozi would definitely improve significantly. "I'm looking forward to our next meeting," Chu Kuangren murmured. Then, he saw the 2 lines of the Azure Mystic Sword Emperor's message on the pillar beside him. Emperors also have a limited lifespan. Are there really immortals in this world? Chu Kuangren thought to himself. He felt that there should be. It was probably a life form that was of a higher level than an emperor. Then, without thinking too much, he took out the 4 divine sword essences and began to refine them. The 4 elemental sword primordial spirit was an extremely powerful supreme treasure. It was not an easy task to refine it, especially since Jian Daozi had already refined the wind and earth primordial spirits. If Chu Kuangren wanted to refine it, he would first have to destroy the spiritual thought imprint that Jian Daozi had left behind. Of course, this was not a difficult task for Chu Kuangren. His spiritual will surged and destroyed the spiritual will brand Jian Daozi had left in the sword essence in a seemingly unstoppable manner. In the distance, Jian Daozi's face turned pale as he ran away. The imprint I left in the sword essences has disappeared. Menu Chu Kuangren. Jian Daozi gritted his teeth in anger. Once I've fully refined the Sword Emperor's inheritance, I'll make you pay. In the Azure Mystic Sword Emperor's closed-door meditation, Chu Kuangren was refining the 4 divine sword essences. Time passed. 7 days later. A dazzling sword chi shot into the sky. Within the sword chi there were 4 colors of green, yellow, blue, and red. It was the power of the 4 divine beasts. The power of the 4 divine beasts was so powerful that it shocked the surroundings. Both the mystic sword guard and Jian Changfeng trembled as they watched from outside the palace. How powerful! Is this the complete power of the 4 divine sword essences that Jian Daozi has been dreaming of? It's terrifying. Inside the palace, Chu Kuangren slowly opened his eyes, and a colorful light flashed across them. A satisfied smile appeared on his face. Not bad. This 4 divine sword essences is indeed a treasure. Aside from allowing me to understand the 4 divine sword Dao, it's also fused into a divine power, the divine sword of 4 divine beasts. The divine sword of 4 divine beasts was the true opportunity of fortune that the 4 divine beasts sword essences contained. Once the 4 divine beast sword essences were fully refined, one would obtain this divine power. Divine powers were a type of power that transcended the Dao techniques. Some people were born with it, while others acquired it through various opportunities of fortune. This was similar to the various Taoist physiques. Divine powers were divided into 3 types: minor divine powers, great divine powers, and supreme divine powers. Among them, the supreme divine powers were the rarest existences like the supreme Taoist physique, and they were extremely useful to cultivators. Unlike Tao techniques, divine powers were a type of power that could grow alongside the cultivator. The stronger the cultivator, the more powerful the divine power they could unleash. The divine sword of 4 divine beasts that Chu Kuangren obtained after refining the divine sword essences was the supreme divine power. Even if Chu Kuangren were to become an emperor in the future, this divine power would still be very useful. It was even more valuable than the Azure Mystic Sword Emperor's inheritance. Supreme theurgy is just what the firmament star calls it. There must be more advanced theurgy above this, such as my Eye of Revelation. This is a theurgy that's even more powerful than the supreme theurgy, just like my immortal body and universal cauldron physique that are stronger than the supreme Taoist physique. Chu Kuangren murmured. He felt that becoming an emperor was not the end of one's cultivation. There were still too many things that he needed to explore in this world. He took a look at the Azure Mystic Sword Emperor's message on the pillar and said with a determined gaze, "Emperors are still limited by their lifespan and cannot live forever. Then I shall go further. If an emperor is not enough, then I shall become the legendary immortals. If being an immortal is not enough, then I shall become an existence above the immortals." Chu Kuangren stood up and walked out of the palace. Outside the palace, the mystic sword guard and Jian Changfeng were already waiting for him. Upon seeing Chu Kuangren, Jian Changfeng said respectfully, "Congratulations, master. Alright, get up. There's nothing left to miss here anyway. Let's go," Chu Kuangren said. Then he lifted his arm and a surge of spiritual power instantly gushed out. The power of the 4 divine beasts, earth, wind, fire, condensed in the void and turned into an extremely powerful 4-colored sword shadow. With a terrifying sword chi, it slashed towards the black mist outside the palace. Wherever the sword chi passed, the black mist was shattered. Chapter 576. The 4 elephants' primordial divine sword was unleashed, and the black mist was broken. Chu Kuangren then left the place with the mystic sword guards and Jian Changfeng. "Is there any way to recover this body of yours?" Chu Kuangren glanced at Jian Changfeng, who had turned into a figurine, and asked casually. Upon hearing that, Jian Changfeng could not help but laugh bitterly. I've used the Great Soul Transfer technique to transfer my soul into this wooden figurine. In order to recover, I'll need to find an undamaged soulless body and transfer my soul into it. That was a very difficult task. Jian Changfeng's soul power was not strong, so if he wanted to take over someone else's body, he would definitely face resistance from the other person's soul. Since the other person's soul and body were one, how could he fight them alone? As for finding a corpse to take over, a damaged body could not fully accommodate his soul. There was another way, and that was to recreate a new body. However, this method was even more ridiculous than the previous one. It was not that there was no way to recreate a new body, but it was extremely rare. The materials were even harder to find, and each of them was an amazing treasure. Even if there was, Chu Kuangren would still have to consider if it was worth wasting such a treasure to recreate a new body for Jian Changfeng. At the end of the day, Jian Changfeng was merely enslaved by Chu Kuangren. An undamaged soulless body? This might not be too difficult to achieve. Chu Kuangren murmured. Upon hearing that, Jian Changfeng was extremely surprised. Master, do you have a way? You'll know when the time comes. Chu Kuangren did not say much. Within the barren forbidden area, many sky prides came to explore, and each of them had their own opportunities of fortune. At the same time, the restrictions that had yet to completely dissipate were also extremely dangerous, and many cultivators had lost their lives because of them. Even sky prides fighting each other was a common occurrence. A ball of dark red flame flew across the sky and landed on Ling Ningyu's body. The power of that ball of flame was so terrifying that even Ling Ningyu could not help but vomit blood. A large part of her snow-white skin was charred. Not only that, but the flame continuously invaded her body through her wounds and hid deep within her body, making it difficult to detect. Ling Ningyu instinctively felt that something was wrong, but she did not have the time to examine her injuries because the enemy before her was staring at her. It was an incomparably charming woman wearing a dark red dress that accentuated her voluptuous figure. Her eyes were as clear as autumn water, and they were even more amorous. Senior sister. Not far away, Chiyu's expression changed greatly when she saw Ling Ningyu injured, and she quickly rushed forward to stand in front of her, staring at the charming woman in front of her solemnly. Crimson Serpent Queen, why are you chasing after us for no reason? Chiyu asked coldly. The Crimson Serpent Queen was the adopted daughter of the king of the Heavenly Serpent bloodline of the Emperor Road Ferocious Beasts. Rumor had it that her true form was an ancient ferocious beast, the Crimson Serpent King, which was extremely powerful. However, the Seven Emotions sect and the Sky Serpent branch had never crossed paths. Red Moon did not understand why the Chilean Queen would target them. For no reason? Back then, when your master killed my father, did he ever think that this day would come? The Crimson Serpent Princess's eyes turned cold. Hearing this, the two of them suddenly thought of something. The Crimson Serpent that master killed that year was your father? Exactly. Damn, I've long heard that your original body is the Crimson Serpent. I didn't expect you to really be related to the King Serpent that master killed. Chiyu cursed in her heart. She did not expect there to be such a reason. Back then, your father brought disaster to the common people. My master killed him. What's wrong with that? Chiyu said. My father was possessed by the devil while practicing martial arts. That's why he fell into madness. It was just the death of some common people. When he finished venting his anger, he would naturally return to normal. However, your master insisted on acting as a righteous person and killed my father. Now, I will avenge my father's death and kill you all. I will first collect some interest from that bitch, Lingyu. What's wrong with that? The Chilean Queen said faintly. She raised her hand and a large amount of crimson flames kept rolling in her palm. That was the Chilean Queen's magical power, the crimson venomous fire. This kind of flame was very powerful. In the world there were few flames that could match it. This is going to be troublesome. Chiyu's expression was a little ugly. They had nothing to say if the other party wanted to avenge their father. However, this did not mean that they wanted to die. Chiyu, leave quickly. You are no match for her. Ling Ningyu's body was filled with cold air, temporarily freezing her injuries. She looked at the Chilean Queen with a solemn expression. Kill. The Chilean Queen snorted coldly and raised her hand to throw out the dark red flame. The flame turned into a ferocious python shadow that hissed and bit out. Supreme Forgetting Emotion Finger. Ling Ningyu raised her hand and gathered her Taoist rhyme. With a point of her finger, a huge white jade finger shadow appeared, almost piercing through the void. The power of this attack was very strong. With a point of her finger, the ferocious flame python instantly shattered. The finger force sent the Chilean queen flying. She said in surprise, "I didn't expect you to have such combat power. You are indeed a forbidden genius." Leng Ningyu was already seriously injured after being ambushed by her. She also took another blow from the Chilean queen and was corroded by the venomous fire. However, she was still able to beat the Chilean queen back. However, Chiyu could see that Leng Ningyu was already an arrow at the end of its flight. After the Chilean queen was forced back, Chiyu quickly hugged Leng Ningyu and turned into a ray of light that flew into the distance. "Run. No matter how you run, you can't escape from my palm." The Chilean queen stuck out her forked dark red tongue and licked it. Her eyes flickered with playfulness. In her opinion, Leng Ningyu were already prey in her palm. No matter how they struggled, they couldn't escape. She was enjoying the feeling of teasing her prey. Whoosh! A figure appeared next to the Chilean queen. It was a handsome young man. If Leng Ningyu were here, they would definitely recognize this person. It was Li Longzi, the disciple of Li Daoren. "Leng Ningyu has been poisoned by my fire desire poison. This poison fire is the complete opposite of the one in Lengyu. Lengyu will suffer the pain of being burned by the poison fire when she is in love, but my poison fire will draw out the most primitive desire in Leng Ningyu's body. No matter how pure she is, she can't resist it. Your chance is here. Take advantage of it." The Chilean queen smiled faintly. Hearing this, Li Longzi was overjoyed. "Thank you, Daoist Chilean. After this is done, don't forget what you promised me." "Daoist Chilean, don't worry. After this is done, I will tell you the whereabouts of the Red Lotus miasma fire." Li Longzi smiled. Then he untied a brocade pouch on his waist and released a snow-white beetle from it. The beetle circled twice in the air and flew in the direction that Leng Ningyu left. Snow Jade Broodmother, even if they are separated by millions of miles, they can still easily find each other. The powder ground by the Broodmother has been injected into your body along with the poison fire. Ningyu, you can't escape. Li Longzi revealed a determined expression. Then, following the guidance of the Snow Jade Broodmother, he chased after Leng Ningyu with the Chilean queen. "Daoist Chilean, after we find those two, I hope that you can cooperate with me to put on a show." Li Longzi suddenly said, "I hope that when the time comes, I will appear and save them." "Oh, you want to play a hero to save the beauty? You have already come this far and you still want to win Leng Ningyu's heart? Humans are really contradictory and hypocritical." The Chilean queen smiled but did not refuse. Chapter 577. Chiyu brought Leng Ningyu to a cave and quickly set up a barrier to hide the cave. After that, she heaved a sigh of relief and slowly placed Leng Ningyu on the ground. "Senior sister, bear with it. I will heal you now." Chiyu looked at Leng Ningyu's injuries and quickly took out a bunch of healing pills. "It's no use. The injuries caused by the Crimson Serpent can't be healed by these pills." Leng Ningyu shook her head. "Then how do you feel now?" "I feel a little hot." Leng Ningyu frowned. It wasn't too painful, but she felt like there was a fire burning inside her. A primal impulse was brewing as if it could break out at any time. "Hot." Chiyu touched Leng Ningyu's forehead. It was indeed a little hot. Her face was red and covered in a layer of cold sweat. "What's going on? How did senior sister become like this?" Chiyu frowned. This was the first time she saw her senior sister like this. Could it be the Crimson Serpent's poisonous fire? Damn it. Chiyu was extremely anxious, but there was nothing she could do. At this moment, a terrifying energy fluctuation came from outside, shaking the entire cave. Chiyu's expression changed. The barrier she set up was broken. Could it be that the Crimson Serpent Princess is already here? No, how could she be so fast? "Leng Ningyu, my poisonous fire doesn't feel good, right?" As expected, the Crimson Serpent Princess voice came from outside the cave. The other party had already come knocking on his door. Leng Ningyu struggled to stand up. "Chiyu, I will stop her. You take the opportunity to leave." "Impossible." Chiyu said firmly, "We came together and we will leave together. Don't even think of making me leave. Worst comes to worst, I will go out and fight that stinky snake." She walked out of the cave and saw the Crimson Serpent Princess. Without a word, she activated the Emperor technique, Heart-Ripping Claw. Instantly, a heart-wrenching pain filled the air. 5 claw energies almost tore the void apart. However, the Crimson Serpent Princess smiled in disdain. "You're not even a Forbidden Heaven's favorite and you want to fight me? You're overestimating yourself." She struck out with her palm and a scarlet flame erupted. The claw energy was forcibly shattered, and Chiyu was blasted into the mountain wall by the palm energy. This stinky snake is indeed very strong. Red Moon cursed under his breath. Lung Ningyu, who walked out of the cave, saw that Chiyu was injured. She raised her hand and sent out a palm strike. The violent power of ice and snow enveloped the Crimson Serpent King daughter. You're still able to remain clear-headed after being hit by my poisonous flames. Jesuke, the path of abandoning love is indeed not a joke. Crimson Serpent Monarch activated her divine ability. Flames revolved around her body and then whizzed out, burning and melting the ice and snow around her. Joy Seal. Not far away, Chiyu activated his Monarch art again. He formed a mysterious hand seal with both hands and launched it at the Chilean princess. It was completely different from the heart-shredding claw from before. This seal contained a sense of joy and it made people smile uncontrollably. The 7 emotions sex monarch art is indeed interesting. Unfortunately, your cultivation is not enough. Crimson Serpent King easily shattered the joy seal. Then a poisonous flame flew out from her fingertip and drilled into Chiyu's body. 1 is a gift, 2 is also a gift. Why don't I let you two sisters enjoy the true joy of the world together? Not far away, Li Salong's eyes lit up as he watched from the void. This Crimson Serpent King was planning to let the two sisters suffer together? Chiyu was also a first-class beauty. In terms of appearance alone, she was not inferior to Leng Ningyu. One was as cold as an iceberg, while the other was as passionate as fire. If he could enjoy them together, wouldn't that be the true beauty of the world? Thinking of this, Li Salong was extremely excited. He rubbed his hands and couldn't wait. Don't worry. It's not a real desperate situation yet. I must let Ningyu feel true despair before I help her. Only then can I leave the deepest impression in her heart. Lung Ningyu, I don't believe that I can't move you with this. You must belong to me. Li Salong said with a fiery gaze. He had pursued Leng Ningyu for so many years, but she had never been moved. Hence he could only resort to this method. She heard that Chu Kuangren had saved Leng Ningyu before, which was why she invited him to the 7 Emotions sect. In other words, saving the damsel in distress would work on Leng Ningyu. This time he must succeed. Even if he could not win her heart in the end, he would still want her body. Smelly snake, what did you do to me? As the fire desire poison entered her body, Chiyu could only feel an uncontrollable heat boiling within her. She could not help but blush. Chiyu? Leng Ningyu's expression changed. She wanted to go forward to check on her but was stopped by the Crimson Serpent King. You can't even protect yourself, so why are you still in the mood to care about others? The Crimson Serpent King sneered. She waved her hand and easily knocked the heavily injured Leng Ningyu to the ground. She then stepped on her chest and said condescendingly, You're the 7 Emotions sect's maiden sage. Hey, you're nothing but an ant under my feet now. I can crush you if I want to. She slowly raised her hand, and the crimson poisonous flames condensed into a long saber. With a gentle wave, she could easily decapitate Leng Ningyu. Now it's my turn to attack. Li Longzi said excitedly. He was about to cooperate with the Crimson Serpent King to put on a good show of saving the damsel in distress. However, at that moment, a sword chi suddenly flew towards them from afar. The sword chi locked onto the Crimson Serpent King, causing her expression to change slightly. This sword chi, how could it be? How could Li Longzi have such strength? The sword chi made the Crimson Serpent King's scalp tingle. Crimson Serpent God Slash. The Crimson Serpent King gathered the poisonous flames in her body onto the long saber in her hand. With a slash of her saber, the fiery red saber ray turned into a giant python that shot towards the sky. The moment the two forces collided, the ground around them shook. The Crimson Serpent King could not help but stumble back a few dozen feet from the huge impact. She then looked into the distant sky with a solemn expression. In the sky, a figure was walking in the air towards her. He was dressed in white and had black hair. He was handsome and otherworldly, and behind him was a woman whose charm was no less than the Crimson Serpent King. That woman was also holding a strange wooden puppet in her hand. It was Chu Kuangren and the mystic sword guard Jian Changfeng. Interesting. I say, Brother Leng, the last time I saved you, you were being chased by the glacial frost python. This time you're being chased by the Crimson Serpent King. I say, Brother Leng, don't tell me you were a snake catcher in your past life. Otherwise, why are you always being targeted by these people? Chu Kuangren slowly walked towards Leng Ningyu and said with a smile. Meanwhile, Leng Ningyu looked at Chu Kuangren's smiling face and could not come back to her senses for a while. It was him again. He was the one who saved her again. It had happened twice in a row. Could this be fate? Not far away, Li Salong's face was ashen. He was so angry that he almost went berserk. He punched the tree trunk next to him. Chu Kuangren. Why is it you again? You were the one who came out to mess things up the last time. Why is it still you this time? You're just trying to mess with me, aren't you? Chapter 578. Not far away, Li Salong was so angry that he almost went crazy. He had painstakingly planned this heroic rescue plan, but now it was all over. He glared at Chu Kuangren as if he wanted to devour him. No, it might not fail. The Crimson Serpent Princess is a forbidden sky pride. As long as she can defeat Chu Kuangren, the outcome will be the same or even better. Li Salong seemed to have thought of something and a look of hope appeared on his face. That was right. If Chu Kuangren was defeated by the Crimson Serpent Princess and he appeared to save everyone, would that not make him look better than Chu Kuangren? At that thought, Li Salong calmed himself down a little and waited for the situation to develop. However, compared to Li Salong's optimism, the Crimson Serpent Princess looked at Chu Kuangren with fear. Her instinct as a wild beast told her that the white-robed young man before her was very dangerous, very dangerous. It felt like she was facing a predator that was even more ferocious than herself. After all, she was an ancient wild beast, the Crimson Serpent ruler. In this world, the only predators that could be more ferocious than her were the extinct primordial descendants. Who are you? The Crimson Serpent ruler looked at Chu Kuangren in fear. The spiritual power within its body had already started to circulate like a dormant poisonous snake, ready to strike at any time. That's not important. What's important is that Sister Lung and I know each other, so we're considered friends. You can't kill her. Chu Kuangren said calmly. He had exchanged emperor techniques with the Seven Emotions sect, and they had provided him with a place to go into closed-door cultivation. Moreover, he had saved the Cold Moon Fairy. Compared to his enemies, the swordsmen and the Wangs, the Seven Emotions sect was considered half an ally to him. How could he stand by and watch when his ally was in danger? If you want to save her, we'll have to see if you have the ability to do so. The Crimson Serpent Princess knew that Chu Kuangren was very strong, but as a forbidden sky pride, she was not one to back down easily. She raised her hand and activated her divine ability. The Crimson Serpent poisonous flame turned into a sea of fire and poured out. Chu Kuangren did not move an inch. He did not even use the long sword at his waist. Instead, he merely pointed his finger and a sword chi instantly shot out from his fingertip. The sword chi was like a ray of light that carried a peerlessly overbearing aura of the sword Dao that seemed capable of obliterating everything. In the blink of an eye, the blazing sea of flames was torn into two by the sword chi. What? Crimson Serpent Queen's expression changed slightly. After the sword chi tore through the sea of fire, it rushed towards her like a hot knife through butter. She swung the long saber in her hand, which was formed from the poisonous flames. After an explosion, she was sent flying more than 1,000 feet away, and she could not help but spit out a mouthful of blood. Who is he? How can he be so powerful? The Crimson Serpent Princess's face was filled with confusion and fear. However, Chu Kuangren did not give him a chance to explain. With a flick of his finger, another surge of sword chi condensed at the tip of his finger. No, I can't take this sword. I'll die. The Crimson Serpent Princess panicked. At this moment, Li Salong couldn't sit still any longer. He had a deal with the Scarlet Serpent Queen, so he naturally couldn't let her die so easily. With a wave of his sleeve, a cloud of grayish-white powder flew out. As he channeled his spiritual power, the powder merged with the wind and formed a mist in the blink of an eye, shrouding Chu Kuangren, the Crimson Serpent Princess and the others. Demon, don't you dare hurt Ningyu. Li Salong rushed out and attacked the Crimson Serpent Princess with his palm. Chu Kuangren watched from the side with a playful look in his eyes. He then retracted the sword chi at the tip of his finger. When Li Salong's palm landed on the Crimson Serpent Princess's body, she used the force of the palm to retreat into the mist and instantly disappeared. Apart from blocking one's sight, the mist could also isolate one's spiritual thoughts, which made it very suitable for escaping. Brother Chu, Ningyu and the others are heavily injured. Let's leave first. Otherwise it'll be bad if the Crimson Serpent Princess comes back. Li Salong said as he looked at Leng Ningyu worriedly. Chu Kuangren sneered. If you didn't appear just now, I would have chopped that snake and turned it into snake soup. With a wave of his sleeve, the sword chi formed a violent gust of wind that blew away the surrounding mist. However, the Crimson Serpent Princess was nowhere to be seen. Dao friend Chu, don't be careless. That's an ancient ferocious beast with strange methods. Moreover, Ningyu and the others are severely injured. If it wasn't for me making a move and using the poison mist to scare it away, who knows what would have happened next? Li Longzi said with a solemn expression. Chu Kuangren smirked when he heard that. If that's the case, then I should thank you for saving us. You don't have to thank me. Let's heal Ningyu first. Li Solong walked up to check on Leng Ningyu's injuries. His expression changed and he said awkwardly, Ningyu has been poisoned by the Crimson Serpent's poison fire. This poison fire is different from the Cold Moon Fairies. This poison fire will trigger one's lust, so one must use the yin and yang intercourse technique to expel the poison fire. Otherwise, Ningyu might lose her life. *T. At that moment, Red Moon walked up to them. She did not have a good impression of Li Solong. Get lost. However, her current situation was not optimistic either. Her face was flushed red and her curses were soft. Her gaze gradually became blurry. Red Moon, it's more important to save someone. Please forgive me. Li Solong lifted his arms to carry Leng Ningyu into the cave, but she pushed him away. Leng Ningyu looked at Chu Kuangren and recalled what her honorable master had said to her that day. She looked at Chu Kuangren and said, Brother Chu, are you willing to save my life again? It's nothing. Chu Kuangren smiled. Ningyu, do you really want to give yourself to this person? We've known each other for so many years. Am I not better than him? Li Solong wanted to fight for a little longer. However, Leng Ningyu said indifferently, Honorable Master has said that the Seven Emotions sect has nothing to do with you two anymore. Ningyu, that was a mistake made by Honorable Master. It has nothing to do with me. Brother Li, there's no need to say anything more. Hearing that, Li Solong's heart was already dead. He looked at Red Moon and saw that she was also poisoned by the poison fire. He took a deep breath and said, Then let me cure Brother Red Moon. Red Moon was also a beautiful woman. Even if he could not get Leng Ningyu, getting Red Moon was already a blessing. However, Red Moon looked at him in disgust and then turned to Chu Kuangren. She gritted her teeth and said, Brother Chu, can you handle me? Her question was bold and direct. The succubus sword guard beside her felt a little embarrassed. Chu Kuangren was immediately displeased. Was this girl doubting his ability? If not for the fact that he had other ways to cure the poison, he would definitely let her know how powerful he was. Of course. All right, I'll be troubling you then, Brother Chu. Li Solong was dumbfounded. Can't you be like this? Not even one of them is left for me? The succubus sword guard looked at Leng Ningyu and Red Moon enviously and then looked at Li Solong with disdain. What kind of joke is this? With a master here, any woman would choose a master. Succubus sword guard, watch him. Chu Kuangren looked at Li Solong and said to the succubus sword guard. He then used his mind power to carry Leng Ningyu and Red Moon into the cave. Behind him, Li Solong's eyes were red. He had worked so hard, but all his hard work had gone to someone else. Chapter 579. Inside the cave. Chu Kuangren placed Leng Ningyu and Red Moon on the ground. Although Leng Ningyu was a cultivator of the Tao of Forgetfulness, her face had begun to redden due to the primal impulse within her. It was the first time she felt this way. Meanwhile, Red Moon could no longer hold it in. She rushed towards Chu Kuangren and hugged him. Her eyes were misty as she tried to kiss him. Chu Kuangren blocked her with his hand and said, You wish to take advantage of me? Dream on. Brother Chu, I've already given it my all. Why are you still so shy? Hurry up. Chu Kuangren looked at Red Moon. Why did she look so eager? Was he the one who was at a disadvantage? Beside him, Leng Ningyu took a deep breath and began to undress. Although she had never experienced something like this before, she had occasionally heard about it from her junior sisters, so she knew what to do. Chu Kuangren watched from the side and stopped her. Wait. Brother Chu, are you even a man? How can you be so hesitant in front of two beauties like us? If you continue like this, we'll both die. Red Moon said with dissatisfaction. She could no longer control the surging desire within her. Don't worry, I won't let you die. However, who told you that this is the only way to cure the poison? Chu Kuangren said with a laugh. He pushed away Red Moon, who was constantly tugging at his clothes, and used his mind power to control the two. What a joke. Was it that easy to take advantage of Chu Kuangren? Guard your mind and channel your spiritual power according to my command. Chu Kuangren said. He then raised his hand and gathered the surrounding water qi into needles, which he then inserted into the two women's bodies. After all, he was a top-notch healer. He could even cure Leng Yu Fairy's poison fire that had plagued her for years, let alone the two women's poison fire. It was child's play to him. Juk, Bai Hui Chi Hai Sanin, Chu Kuangren's voice rang out. Every time he inserted a water needle, he guided the two women's spiritual power to circulate. The poison fire in the two women's bodies was gradually enveloped by the water qi and began to be expelled from their fingertips. Outside the cave, Li Solong paced on the spot. He gritted his teeth at the thought of what might happen inside the cave, wanting to rush in and kill Chu Kuangren. However, he did not have the courage to do so. Not to mention the fact that he was no match for Chu Kuangren, he might not even be able to defeat the mystic sword guards that were guarding outside the cave. Looking at the enchanting sword guards, his eyes couldn't help but reveal a hint of surprise. It was obvious that the other party was a woman who did not pale in comparison to Leng Ningyu. But her style was completely different. She was gentle and seductive, a rare beauty. Li Solong's heart was filled with jealousy towards Chu Kuangren. Why was Chu Kuangren always surrounded by such beautiful women? Was it because he was more handsome than her? I heard from Daoist Chu that you're a mystic sword guard. Are you from the sword race? Li Solong asked curiously. So what if I am? The mystic sword guard calmly looked at the other party. There were no fluctuations in his eyes, as if he was looking at an object. If Chu Kuangren had not asked her to keep an eye on Li Solong, she probably would not have even looked him in the eye. But I heard that the sword race and fellow Daoist Chu are mortal enemies. I wonder why Miss is following him around? Are you threatened by him? Li Solong said, trying to find something that would harm Chu Kuangren. When the mystic sword guard heard that, she knew that the other party was trying to drive a wedge between her and Chu Kuangren. A cold glare flashed across her eyes as she said, "Keep your thoughts to yourself. If you dare to harbor any ill intentions towards our master, I have 100 ways to make your life a living hell." Master. When Li Solong heard how the mystic sword guard addressed Chu Kuangren, he was once again filled with jealousy. The mystic sword guard should be one of the top sky prides in the sword race, yet she was willing to acknowledge Chu Kuangren as her master. Did that not mean that Chu Kuangren could do whatever he wanted to her? ***. Where did Chu Kuangren get so much luck with women? Li Solong roared in his heart. After being snubbed by the mystic sword guard, Li Solong did not ask any more questions. The more he looked at the cave, the more frustrated he became. He got up and wanted to leave. However, at that moment, a sword ray flashed past him. The mystic sword guard said coldly, "Since our master did not allow you to leave, you better stay here obediently. Otherwise I won't mind chopping off your legs." After all, Chu Kuangren did say not to let Li Solong leave, not to hurt him. Li Solong was furious, but when he saw the mystic sword guard's cold glare, he lost his confidence. Alright, I'll stay here. Li Solong found a large rock and sat down. Secretly, he was already thinking of ways to deal with Chu Kuangren. He was definitely no match for Chu Kuangren in a one-on-one fight. Even if he had the opportunity of fortune that could boost his strength in a short period of time, it would still be difficult for him to fight against Chu Kuangren. He could only rely on others. If the Crimson Serpent Princess obtained the Red Lotus Miasma Fire, she might be able to deal with Chu Kuangren. At that thought, Li Solong looked at the cave with a deep hatred in his eyes. "Chu Kuangren, you have taken the woman I want, so I will make you pay for it." At that moment inside the cave, Chu Kuangren had already used the water vapor to force out the poisonous flames from the two women's bodies. The moment the poisonous flames were forced out, they felt as if a heavy burden had been lifted off their shoulders. They could not help but let out a high-pitched moan. Outside the cave, Li Solong's lungs almost exploded when he heard the sound. He stood there, listening to the sounds of his beloved women making love to another man. The feeling was so unbearable that he almost vomited blood. Inside the cave, Chu Kuangren looked at the two poisonous flames in front of him with a playful look on his face. One of the poisonous flames was nothing special, but the one that was expelled from Leng Ningyu's body was mixed with something else. It was a strange powder. Coincidentally, Chu Kuangren knew what that powder was. The powder made from the snow jade broodmother worm is described in the Doctor's Inheritance. It is a rare healing material, but at the same time, the snow jade broodmother worm has the characteristic of attracting each other and can be used to track one's position. Why does fellow Daoist Lung have this in his body? It was mixed with the poisonous flames by the Crimson Serpent Princess. However, this thing is very rare. If one is not a physician, very few would recognize it, let alone use it. Chu Kuangren thought of Li Solong outside the cave. Li Solong's honorable master Li was a physician, so it made sense if Li Solong had this thing. Besides, Chu Kuangren suddenly appeared here and helped the Crimson Serpent Princess escape when Chu Kuangren could have killed her. No matter how he thought about it, there must be something fishy going on. Is this Li Solong together with the Crimson Serpent Princess? However, a snake and a human, what kind of connection could there be between them? Chu Kuangren rubbed his chin. The more he thought about it, the more he found it interesting. It seemed like there was another game to play. Chapter 580. Brother Chu, has our poison been cured? Red Moon looked at Chu Kuangren and asked curiously. Of course. Do you still not believe in my abilities? Of course I do. I almost forgot, Brother Chu, if you can cure our honorable teacher's fire poison, then the Crimson Serpent Princess's poison is nothing to you. Red Moon shook her head and said. She was affected by the fire poison back then, so she did not think about it. Chu Kuangren saw her shaking her head and could not help but say, why do you look a little disappointed? No. Red Moon coughed twice. In fact, she was secretly looking forward to something happening between her and Chu Kuangren. After all, who would not love a strong and handsome young man? Chu Kuangren glanced at her and ignored her. He then got up and walked out of the cave. Compared to the two ladies, he was more interested in Li Solong. He was very curious about the relationship between him and the Crimson Serpent Princess. Let's go, senior sister. Red Moon pulled Leng Ningyu, who had been stunned ever since the fire poison was expelled. However, Leng Ningyu looked at Chu Kuangren's back and said softly, Red Moon, I think I feel something. What feeling? Is the fire poison not completely expelled? Red Moon's expression changed slightly. No, honorable teacher told me to fall in love with Brother Chu. I feel like I'm in love with him now. What? Outside the cave. The Phantom Blade Sentinel looked at Li Solong. Jian Changfeng was lying motionlessly in the bushes, basking in the sun. Anyone who passed by would only think that he was an ordinary piece of wood. Chu Kuangren walked out of the cave. Red Moon and Leng Ningyu followed behind him. Their faces were still flushed. That was because the fire poison had just been expelled, and their body temperature had not completely dropped. However, to Li Solong, it was a sign that the two ladies had been nourished. He was so frustrated that he did not know what to say. All he felt was that the scene in front of him was too glaring. Master. At that moment, the Phantom Blade Sentinel greeted them. She stole a glance at the two ladies, her eyes filled with envy. Chu Kuangren looked at Li Solong and smiled. Now it's time to settle the score between us. Li Solong, who was about to say something, heard Chu Kuangren's words and his expression changed. Brother Chu, what do you mean by that? You know very well what I mean. Please enlighten me, fellow Taoist Chu. Tell me, why did you suddenly appear here? I came to the desolate forbidden land to gain experience and suddenly passed by this place. Can't I? Oh, then why did you save the Scarlet Serpent Queen when I was about to kill her? How would I know that you could kill him? I just saw that Ningyu's life was in danger. That's why I made a move and used the poison mist to scare him away. Is that so? How can I believe you with such a coincidence? Charm Sword Guard, take him down. Chu Kuangren said indifferently. The charming sword guard didn't say a word. His figure flashed as he rushed towards Li Solong. His fallen darkness aura instantly erupted. This is too much. Li Solong's expression changed as he raised his hand to attack the charming sword guard. Their energies collided and both of them were pushed back. As a top-notch sky pride, Li Solong's strength was naturally not ordinary. Aside from his medical skills, he also had two emperor techniques. Oh, your strength is not bad. The charming sword guard was slightly surprised. Then, a long sword suddenly appeared in her hand and she attacked again. This time it was more powerful than before. In just a few moves, Li Solong was already having a hard time defending himself. Ningyu, are you just going to watch Chu Kuangren act like this? I was just trying to save you just now. Li Solong said loudly. However, Leng Ningyu did not respond. She simply said, I believe in Brother Chu's judgment. Li Solong was furious. Ningyu, have you forgotten about our years of friendship just because you had sex with him once? Without waiting for Leng Ningyu to reply, Red Moon, who was beside her, said, T. What friendship do you have with us? You're the one who's been pestering my senior sister all these years. And your honorable teacher, you even tried to threaten my honorable teacher into giving herself to him. Both of you are not good people. You. Li Solong was so angry that he was speechless. He felt like he was fighting alone. Everyone here, except for himself, was on Chu Kuangren's side. Let's leave first. Li Solong said before his figure turned into a stream of light and flew into the distance. At that moment, a palm attack arrived behind Li Solong and landed on his body, causing him to spit out a mouthful of blood. The attacker was none other than Chu Kuangren. Jian Changfeng, the figurine beside him, was shocked. His master's attack did not kill Li Salong. That did not make sense. Wait a minute. That palm attack just now was a little weak. Jian Changfeng looked at the calm Chu Kuangren curiously. What is my master planning this time? Chu Kuangren, I'll definitely take revenge for this. Li Salong roared as he took out a needle and pricked it on his head. His aura instantly skyrocketed before he turned into a stream of light and disappeared on the spot. Using a secret technique to forcefully increase his strength was just to escape. He knew that even if he used a secret technique, he was still no match for Chu Kuangren. Don't go. The Phantom Blade Sentinel wanted to give chase but was stopped by Chu Kuangren. There's no need to chase after him. Master, I'm useless. I didn't make him stay. The Phantom Blade Sentinel blamed himself. However, Chu Kuangren did not blame him. He said indifferently, if I really wanted to stay, even 10 of him wouldn't be able to escape. He raised his hand and picked up a pouch from the ground. It was something that fell off Li Salong's body when he landed a palm attack on him. What's this? The Phantom Blade Sentinel asked curiously. A bug. Chu Kuangren said. It was unclear if he was talking about the item in the pouch or Li Salong who had escaped. A bug? The Phantom Blade Sentinel was confused. Phantom Blade Sentinel, here's your new mission. Chu Kuangren tossed the pouch to the Phantom Blade Sentinel. The Phantom Blade Sentinel quickly caught it and half knelt on the ground. Please give me your orders, master. Li Salong activated his secret technique and quickly escaped. After making sure that no one was chasing after him, he breathed a sigh of relief and took out the silver needles on his head. Then he spat out a mouthful of blood and his face turned pale. D*Emenit. D*Emenit. Chu Kuangren, I'll definitely take revenge for this. And Leng Ningyu and Red Moon, I won't let you go either. You two cheese. At that moment, all he wanted to do was to seek revenge on Chu Kuangren, and he even hated Leng Ningyu and Red Moon. To him, those two were no longer pure and were no longer worthy of him. If that was the case, then he would destroy them. Let's find the Crimson Serpent Princess first. Only these forbidden sky prides can fight against Chu Kuangren. Li Salong put away the silver needles and was about to leave when he suddenly realized that the pouch that contained the Snow Jade Broodmother worm had disappeared from his waist. He frowned. I don't know where it went when I was escaping just now. He did not care. Since he had already left Leng Ningyu, the Snow Jade Broodmother worm was no longer of any use to him, so he did not mind losing it. Now, he had to think of a way to deal with Chu Kuangren first. Chapter 581. Inside the Barren Forbidden Land. After Chu Kuangren rescued Leng Ningyu and Red Moon, he assigned a mission to the Mystic Sword Guards. At this time, other than the Mystic Sword Guards who were on a mission, Chu Kuangren, Leng Ningyu, Red Moon, Jian Changfeng, and the figurine Jian Changfeng were gathered together. The few of them were chatting. Leng Ningyu had arrived earlier than Chu Kuangren, so she knew more about the Barren Forbidden Area. She was explaining the current situation within the Forbidden Area to Chu Kuangren. Among them, the prodigies of the various Forbidden Grounds all had their own fortuitous encounters. They were the strongest in the Forbidden Grounds and were currently exploring the depths of the Forbidden Grounds. The entire desolate Forbidden Land was divided into the outer area, the inner area, and the core area. The deeper one went, the greater the fortuitous opportunity. Meanwhile, Chu Kuangren, Leng Ningyu, and the others were currently at the border between the outer and inner zone. Most of the extreme cultivators and forbidden sky prides were in the inner zone. As for the core region, because there were still a large number of restrictions that hadn't been completely undone, no one had been able to enter. Just as they were talking, the communication compass at Chu Kuangren's waist had already sent him a message from the Magic Sword Guard. Oh, I've caught up. Somewhere in the barren Forbidden Land. Chilean Princess was recuperating at this time. She said with lingering fear, I didn't expect such a genius to exist. It's unbelievable. She was a forbidden prodigy with incomparably tyrannical strength. However, they could not even withstand 2 attacks from Chu Kuangren. Chu Kuangren's strength was just too terrifying. A monarch. This person's combat strength is probably comparable to a monarch. If I want to fight against this person, I need to raise my strength to that of a peak quasi-emperor. At that time, with the Scarlet Refinement Poison Fire, I will barely be able to fight against him. Judging from Chu Kuangren's sword chi, the Crimson Serpent Princess guessed that Chu Kuangren's spiritual power was at the level of a top-tier boundary emperor. Even among the forbidden prodigies, there weren't many who could become a quasi-emperor, let alone a peak quasi-emperor. Princess, I'm here. At this moment, a figure suddenly appeared. It was Li Solong. Seeing him, the Crimson Serpent Monarch's expression darkened. A large part of the reason she was injured was because of this person, so she didn't have a good expression and coldly said, "Who is that person? You better give me an explanation." Li Solong told him everything he knew about Chu Kuangren and added, "I didn't know this person would suddenly appear." Chu Kuangren, the one who single-handedly defeated a few forbidden sky prides? He is indeed extraordinary. His appearance has completely disrupted our plans. With him here it will be very difficult to deal with Leng Ningyu. The Crimson Serpent Queen's face was gloomy. Of course I know that. I have returned this time to lend Princess a hand. Oh, you plan to tell me the whereabouts of the Red Lotus Miasma fire? The Scarlet Serpent Queen's eyes lit up. The reason she was willing to cooperate with Li Solong was because of the Red Lotus Miasma fire. That's right. Your Highness may not be a match for Chu Kuangren's current strength, but that might not be the case once you've refined the Red Lotus Miasma fire. Very good. Don't worry. After I refine the Red Lotus Miasma fire, I will keep my promise. Ningyu will belong to you. No, I want those two bitches to die together. Li Solong snorted coldly with hatred in his eyes. The Crimson Serpent Queen was a little surprised. Then, as if she had understood something, a playful smile appeared on her face. It seems that my poison flame has taken effect after all. It's just that you can't win against Chu Kuangren. Well, it makes sense. His face is way better than yours. If it were me, I would choose him too. Humph, Princess, you better watch your words. Otherwise, I can find someone else to cooperate with. Li Solong's expression darkened. Face. Do these women only know how to look at faces? Every single one of them was so mesmerized by Chu Kuangren that even his enemy, the Crimson Serpent Queen, had to praise Chu Kuangren in front of him. Is there still justice in this world? Alright, I understand. The Crimson Serpent Queen shrugged and said. A hint of disdain flashed across her eyes, but she hid it so well that Li Solong did not see it. Let's go. The Red Lotus Miasma fire is still some distance away from here. Alright. The Crimson Serpent Queen was instantly excited at the mention of the Red Lotus Miasma fire. She could not wait any longer. Not long after the two of them left, a ghostly black figure appeared. That person was the Mystic Blade Sentinel who had been secretly following Li Solong. She was proficient in Darkness Dao and Concealment Dao. Even a forbidden sky pride like the Crimson Serpent Queen would have a hard time noticing her from a certain distance. Just as Master expected, this Li Solong is indeed related to the Crimson Serpent Queen. So it's because of the Red Lotus Miasma fire. No wonder the Crimson Serpent Queen is willing to cooperate with him. Send a message to Master. After sending the message, the Mystic Blade Sentinel took out the Snow Jade Queen Worm and continued to follow Chu Kuangren. About a day later, Li Solong and the Crimson Serpent Queen arrived at a swamp. The swamp contained a large amount of miasma, so it was completely gray and blurry. There was no way to see what was inside. There's a Red Lotus Miasma fire here? The Crimson Serpent Queen frowned. This place is filled with water vapor. How can a heavenly flame be born here? I have no reason to lie to you. Just follow me. Li Solong said calmly before he swallowed an antidote pill and walked into the miasma. The miasma contained a deadly poison. If one did not take precautions, even a boundary emperor would be poisoned to death on the spot. However, the Crimson Serpent Queen was unafraid. She had the body of a ferocious beast and mastered the Red Lotus poisonous fire. This miasma might be poisonous to others, but it was like fresh air to her, making her feel very comfortable. When the two walked into the miasma, the charm sword guard appeared and looked at the miasma with some difficulty. I don't have an antidote pill on me. If I barge in rashly, I'm afraid my life will be in danger. I will also expose my whereabouts and affect Master's plan. It's better to wait here for Master. At this time, the Crimson Serpent Queen and Li Solong had already begun to enter the swamp. Soon, the Crimson Witch saw a ball of crimson flame in the miasma in the distance. She also sensed a scorching fire attribute aura in the air. There really is a Red Lotus Miasma fire here. That's natural. Although this place is a swamp, there is a fire-attributed earth vein passing through it. It combined with the poisonous miasma of this swamp and nourished it together, resulting in the birth of the Red Lotus Miasma fire. However, this place is very hidden and people rarely come here. Master and I only discovered it when we came here to pick medicinal herbs. As the Crimson Serpent Queen spoke, Li Solong and the Crimson Serpent Queen had already approached the flame. Upon a closer look, it was a fiery red flame in the shape of a red lotus surrounded by fiery miasma. The Crimson Serpent Queen licked her lips and looked at the red lotus miasma fire with a fiery gaze. The red lotus miasma fire was a poisonous flame among poisonous flames. If she could refine it, it would be very beneficial to her. Wait, why is there another person? Suddenly, the Crimson Serpent Queen saw a figure under the red lotus miasma fire. It was a middle-aged man who was performing a series of hand seals. He was attempting to refine the red lotus miasma fire. That's my master, Taoist Li. What? Your master is refining the red lotus miasma fire here? Then why did you bring me here? Are you messing with me? The Crimson Serpent Queen said coldly. It's fine. He hasn't been completely refined and can't move. You just need to kill him. Li Solong said calmly. Chapter 582. You can just kill him. Li Solong said indifferently. The Crimson Serpent Princess was shocked. Is he really your master? Yes, but he's too useless. He couldn't even cure Cold Moon Fairy's illness and caused me to break off my relationship with Ningyu. If he was really that capable, he wouldn't have pursued Cold Moon Fairy for so many years without success. If he was that capable, he would have brought me and Ningyu together. Then things wouldn't have gotten to this point. Li Solong said with a hint of resentment. He looked at his honorable master who taught him his skills with a cold gaze. Besides, with his abilities, he won't be a match for Chu Kuangren even if he manages to refine this red lotus miasma fire. You're different. You're a forbidden sky pride. Only by refining it will you stand a chance against Chu Kuangren. I want Chu Kuangren and Leng Ningyu to pay the price. The Crimson Serpent Princess was amazed by his words. You've really changed my understanding of how despicable humans are. You really are filthy. Humph, don't forget that I'm doing this to help you. Don't worry. I know that once I've successfully refined the red lotus miasma fire, I'll definitely avenge you. As the Crimson Serpent Princess spoke, she raised her hand and attacked Li Daoren from behind. Li Daoren was wholeheartedly focused on refining the red lotus miasma fire, so he was not very alert of his surroundings. He did not expect anyone to come to this miasma-filled swamp. The sudden attack sent him flying, causing him to spit out a mouthful of blood. He was instantly injured. Who's there? Li Daoren's expression changed as he looked at the Crimson Serpent Princess. That person's body emanated an extremely powerful spiritual power that was mixed with a ferocious chi that was unique to a murderer. It was not something that he could fight against. Then he saw Li Solong not far away. In a flash, he stood in front of Li Solong and said without turning his head, "Leave quickly. This person is very powerful. I'll think of a way to hold her back." However, just as he finished speaking, a sword had already pierced through his chest from behind. Li Daoren looked at the tip of the sword in disbelief. How can this be? With a loud crack, the sword was pulled out of Li Daoren's body. Li Solong then raised his hand and struck Taoist Li's body, sending him flying. Taoist Li was first seriously injured by Chilean Princess and then stabbed by Li Solong. At this time he was already lying on the ground, barely breathing. Solong, why would you do this? Taoist Li couldn't believe what he was seeing. He looked at Li Solong with confusion and shock. Honorable teacher, you can't blame me for this. You can only blame yourself for being too useless to help me deal with Chu Kuangren. You rebellious disciple. Everything had happened too quickly, and Taoist Li still did not understand what had happened. However, being betrayed by his own disciple made him both angry and disheartened. Princess, it's up to you to send him on his final journey. Can't you do it? Li Solong sighed. He's my master after all. I can't do it. The Crimson Serpent Princess was dumbfounded. She had never seen such a shameless human before. That stab just now was so ruthless and smooth, and now he was telling her that he couldn't bear to do it? Humans really are hypocrites. The Chilean princess sneered before she unleashed a crimson venom fire onto Li Daoren's body. The scorching venom fire soon burned Li Daoren into a pile of charcoal. Li Solong stepped forward and retrieved a yin and yang ring from the charred corpse. He scanned through the items inside and revealed a satisfied smile. This old fart has been practicing medicine for so many years and has collected a lot of rewards. Looks like he still has a lot of good stuff hidden away. He took out a golden jade scroll that was engraved with mysterious runes. He even has this Emperor-grade light escape talisman. The light escape talisman was a type of rune that allowed one to turn into a stream of light and move at high speeds. The Emperor-grade light escape talisman was even rarer. This item could be considered a treasure for escaping. Even an emperor might not be able to escape with this item. Now let me refine this red lotus miasma fire. The Chilean princess looked at the crimson flames in front of her and could not help but feel excited. She placed her hand into the flames. Instantly, wisps of flames entered her body through her arm. She was a ferocious beast that specialized in controlling venom fire. Her innate ability, the crimson venom fire, allowed her to devour other venom fire to strengthen herself. Therefore, not only could the red lotus miasma fire not hurt her, but it was also a peerless tonic for her. What a pure and huge amount of venom fire energy. It's really great. The Chilean princess revealed a joyful expression. The red lotus miasma fire was one of the top venom fire in the world. It was a peerless treasure for any cultivator that cultivated the Tao of fire. The Chilean princess had absorbed many venom fire in the past, but none of them could compare to the red lotus miasma fire she was currently absorbing. However, the purity and quantity of the energy were the same. Just as the Chilean princess was absorbing the red lotus miasma fire, a sudden sword light cut through the miasma and easily cut off her arm. With a scream, the Chilean princess instantly retreated and looked at the source of the sword energy with vigilance. To be able to tear apart her ferocious beast body so easily, the person who unleashed this kind of sword chi was definitely not someone to be trifled with. Moreover, that sword chi gave her a very familiar feeling. It's him. It's definitely him. The Chilean princess stared at the miasma, and Li Salong was also shocked. Then a figure slowly walked out of the miasma. The newcomer was dressed in white, and his jet-black hair danced in the wind. Behind him were three beautiful women. Who else could it be other than Chu Kuangren? He looked at the red lotus miasma fire not far away and laughed. The red lotus miasma fire. Ha, I didn't let you go in vain. Chu Kuangren, why are you here? Li Salong almost doubted his own eyes. Why is Chu Kuangren everywhere I go? Why does this guy have to ruin my plans every time? Wait, let me go. You did let me go on purpose, but how did you get here? Take a guess. Li Salong pondered for a while before he touched his waist where the snow jade queen worm was supposed to be. You've taken the snow jade queen worm that I lost. You're not that dumb after all. Chu Kuangren chuckled. That's what you're best at. When you hit me earlier, you didn't intend to kill me, but to inject the snow jade queen worm powder into my body. That's right. That worm powder was what you asked the Chilean princess to inject into Brother Lung's body. Li Salong's expression was extremely ugly. He did not expect that the method he used against Leng Ningyu would be used against him by Chu Kuangren. You idiot, you've caused me so much trouble. The Chilean princess gritted her teeth and glared at Li Salong before she said to Chu Kuangren, Brother Chu, Li Salong was the one who asked me to help him with this red lotus miasma fire as a reward. Every debt has a debtor, so you can settle it with him. It has nothing to do with me. As for this red lotus miasma fire, she glanced at the red lotus miasma fire and said unwillingly, I don't want it anymore. I'll give it to you, Brother Chu. She knew that she was no match for Chu Kuangren, and it was impossible for her to snatch the mysterious flame from him. Instead of fighting him head-on, it was better for her to think of a way to save herself first. Chapter 583. You almost killed me and senior sister, and now you're telling me that this has nothing to do with you? Do you think that's possible? Chiyu sneered. Chu Kuangren looked at the Crimson Serpent Princess without saying a word, but it was obvious that he shared the same opinion as Red Moon. The long sword at his waist made a clanging sound, and half of it was revealed. An extremely cold sword-based Taoist rhyme flowed out and shrouded the surroundings. Chu Kuangren, if you kill me, you'll be going against the entire Sky Serpent tribe. Think about it carefully. Is it really worth it? Crimson Serpent Queen gritted her teeth and said, Threaten? Interesting, I want to see exactly what the Heavenly Serpent clan can do to me after I kill you. Chu Kuangren said indifferently as his sword-based Taoist rhyme poured out. The Kunwu sword was unsheathed, and the piercingly cold sword light had already whistled out, tearing the ground in front of it as it aimed at the Crimson Serpent Princess. Let's go. Beside her, Li Salong suddenly grabbed the Crimson Serpent Queen and crushed a jade slip in his hand. In an instant, the two of them turned into a stream of light. Their speed was so fast that even Chu Kuangren's spatial conveyor technique could not react in time. Oh, what kind of life-saving treasure is this? He looked at the two people who had escaped with some surprise. Then he ignored them and turned to look at the red lotus miasma fire. Even 10 Emperor-grade treasured herbs can't compare to a heavenly flame of this level. Chu Kuangren slowly extended his hand towards the red lotus miasma fire. At the side, the charmed sword guard reminded, Master, this deviant flame contains poison. Please be careful. Yes, it's fine. Chu Kuangren nodded slightly. His hand had already reached into the red lotus miasma fire, and a large amount of the flames contained a type of poison that was rapidly corroding his body. Compared to the energy of the red lotus miasma fire, the poison was much weaker. Chu Kuangren had the body of a supreme sage, so his physique was even stronger than a ferocious beast's. Hence, the red lotus miasma fire's toxins had no effect on him at all. However, if one did not know how to deal with the violent energy of the mysterious flame, even a boundary emperor would be burned to ashes if they tried to forcefully absorb it. However, he possessed the heaven and earth cauldron physique, which allowed him to refine all kinds of energy in the world. And this red lotus miasma fire was within this category. With a single thought, an endless stream of heavenly flames instantly gushed into Chu Kuangren's body and was quickly refined by the universal cauldron physique, converting them into spiritual power. Seeing that Chu Kuangren was refining the mystical flame, the mystic sword guard took the initiative to stand aside and protect him. The others, including Leng Ningyu and Qiyu, also set up barriers around them. A streak of light streaked across the sky and landed on a mountain peak. They were none other than Li Solong and the Crimson Serpent Princess who had escaped with the Emperor Great Escape Talisman. After the two of them escaped, they still had lingering fear in their hearts. They stood where they were for a long time before they came back to their senses. Damn it! Damn it! After Li Solong roared with a gloomy face, he kept waving his palms and smashing everything around him. Rocks, plants and so on, nothing was spared. The Crimson Serpent Queen's expression did not look any better. That was the red lotus miasma fire that she had been searching for a long time. Once she absorbed and refined it, her strength would definitely rise to another level. But now, one of her arms had been chopped off in her human form, let alone rising to a higher level. Chu Kuangren, I, the Crimson Serpent Queen, am not one to be taken advantage of. I'll remember this. She gritted her teeth and said. Then she looked at Li Solong beside her and snorted. Have you vented enough? If you have, come and heal me. She had not fully recovered from her injuries, and Li Solong, who was a healer, could be of help. Humph, princess, you'd better be more polite with your words. I was the one who saved you just now. But it's all thanks to you that I ended up like this. If it weren't for your stupidity, not knowing that you were poisoned by the bug powder. At the mention of the bug powder, the Crimson Serpent Queen's expression changed. Idiot, hurry up and force the bug powder out of your body. The Snow Jade Broodmother Worm could locate each other. As long as the bug powder remained in Li Solong's body, he would not be able to shake off the Snow Jade Broodmother Worm. Upon hearing that, Li Solong panicked and immediately channeled his spiritual power. The bug powder was extremely difficult to detect in the body, but as the user of the Snow Jade Broodmother Worm and a healer, Li Solong naturally had a way to detect it. He took out a medicinal pill, consumed it, and channeled his spiritual power. Not long after, he spat out a mouthful of grayish-white blood, which was mixed with the bug powder that Chu Kuangren had injected into his body. Let's go. We can't stay here any longer. The Crimson Serpent Queen said in a low voice. She then ran some distance away and arrived at a cave. She then set up a seal and breathed a sigh of relief. Then, Li Solong began to heal the Crimson Serpent Queen's injuries. At the same time, he was thinking about how to deal with Chu Kuangren. His Taoist core would not be stable if he did not take revenge. Chu Kuangren had taken away the person he loved and ruined his plans. In order to deal with Chu Kuangren, he was even willing to kill his own honorable teacher. It was impossible for him to stop now. That had become an obsession in his heart. Chu Kuangren, if I don't take revenge, I'll never be a human. The Crimson Serpent Queen had also noticed Li Solong's hatred towards Chu Kuangren. She sneered and said, How are you going to take revenge on Chu Kuangren? Li Solong was not even a Forbidden Sky Pride, so it was too difficult to deal with him. I can't, but that doesn't mean others can't. You're looking for other Forbidden Sky Prides. Who do you think is a match for Chu Kuangren? The Crimson Serpent Queen could not help but admit that Chu Kuangren was too strong. Even the Forbidden Sky Prides were no match for that kind of power. One Forbidden Sky Pride might not be a match for him, but what if many of them joined forces? Besides, those Forbidden Sky Prides must have had a lot of opportunities of fortune in the barren Forbidden area and have grown a lot. If they joined forces, they might be able to defeat Chu Kuangren. What do you plan to do? Let's look for Jian Daozi first. Like me, he used to be Leng Ningyu's suitor. If he finds out about Leng Ningyu and Chu Kuangren, he won't just sit back and watch. Li Solong said coldly. He was no stranger to Jian Daozi. In the past, among Leng Ningyu's suitors, Jian Daozi and he were the most influential. Hence, Chu Kuangren regarded Jian Daozi as his biggest rival in love. However, he did not expect that Chu Kuangren would beat him to it before they could even hold Leng Ningyu's hand. Li Salong was thinking about who else besides Jian Daozi could make use of? Wang Quan of the Wang family? Bai Hongyu of the Bai family? Jiu Yan of the nine-headed snakelet tribe? If all these were not enough, Li Salong fumbled with the yin and yang ring in his hand. There was something hidden in Li Salong's yin and yang ring, and that thing was related to a terrifying existence. Unless it was absolutely necessary, Chu Kuangren did not want to take the risk to look for that terrifying existence. Inside the swamp, Chu Kuangren was still absorbing and refining the red lotus miasma fire. The energy contained within the mysterious flame was so majestic that it was not any weaker than the earth vein origin essence that he had refined in the past. About a day later, the majestic earth vein origin essence was completely refined by him, turning it into a terrifying spiritual power that filled his spiritual mound. In his spiritual ruins, an incomparably rich spiritual power surrounded the 7 supreme foundations in his body like a vast ocean. Even a quasi-emperor would feel ashamed to see such a scale of spiritual power. Not only in terms of quantity but also in terms of quality, no one could match up to it. This was also one of the sources of Chu Kuangren's tyrannical combat strength. Among those in the same realm, no one's spiritual power could compare to his. Chapter 584. Inside Chu Kuangren's spiritual mound, the 7 supreme foundation levels radiated with a divine light as vast spiritual power surrounded the foundation levels. However, at that moment, the overly pure and majestic spiritual power caused the supreme foundation levels to emit a dense golden mist. The 7 supreme foundation levels began to vibrate and slowly approached each other as if they were resonating with each other. Chu Kuangren's eyes lit up. Could this be? He stared at the changes in the supreme foundation levels. The golden mist that was emitted from the supreme foundation levels condensed into a golden spiritual power. That spiritual power was of a much higher quality than the other spiritual powers. Although it was just a single strand, it gave off a majestic aura as if it could collapse the heavens. Chu Kuangren took a deep breath as his eyes lit up. This is the Emperor's essence. The Emperor's essence was the spiritual power used by emperors. Chu Kuangren had condensed an Emperor's essence that only emperors could. In the past, the primordial Emperor's essence had appeared in the firmament star, but that Emperor's essence and this Emperor's essence were 2 different concepts. That Emperor's essence contained a mysterious Taoist rhyme that was used to improve one's understanding of the Tao. It was equivalent to an external object. However, Chu Kuangren's Emperor's essence was cultivated by himself, so he could fully control it and greatly increase his combat strength. The Emperor's essence is far more terrifying than any cultivator's spiritual power. Although it's only 1 strand, it's not to be underestimated. It seems that the quality of my spiritual power has reached the limit of a boundary emperor. Otherwise, I wouldn't be able to condense an emperor's essence that only emperors can. Chu Kuangren smiled in satisfaction. He had gained a lot from refining the red lotus miasma fire. After all, there were not many boundary emperors in the entire emperor's path who could condense an emperor's essence. Only the emperor realm cultivators could do so. As for the sky prides, even the forbidden sky prides, it was impossible without great opportunities of fortune. With just this emperor's essence, Chu Kuangren could crush most of the sky prides on the emperor's path. The resonance of the 7 supreme foundation levels gradually stopped, and the golden emperor's essence circulated within Chu Kuangren's body in a dazzling manner. After the golden emperor's essence circulated around his body once, it returned to his spiritual mound. Chu Kuangren felt that the emperor's essence seemed to have grown a little stronger. After refining all of the red lotus miasma fire, Chu Kuangren slowly got up. His black hair fluttered in the wind, his eyes were as deep as the stars, and a terrifying aura emanated from his body. This pressure was the pressure of the Emperor Tao. Beside him, the expressions of the charmed sword guards, Leng Ningyu and the others changed. This pressure caused their bodies to instinctively tremble. So strong. Master has become stronger again. Isn't his strength improving a little too quickly? Red Moon could not help but click his tongue in wonder. Let's leave. Chu Kuangren said as he led Leng Ningyu and the others away from the swamp. Once they were out of the swamp, Chu Kuangren used his spiritual thought to scan the area within a radius of a few 100,000 kilometers. There were more treasures here than in the place they had stayed before. Obviously, this was the inner circle of the desolate forbidden area. There should be many opportunities in the inner circle of the forbidden area. Do you have any clues, fellow Taoist Leng? Chu Kuangren asked Leng Ningyu, who was beside him. The desolate forbidden area was an ancient existence in the Emperor's path. There were very few records of emperors in the firmament star, let alone an ancient place like this. However, it was different for an ancient orthodoxy's inheritor like Leng Ningyu. The ancient orthodoxy had a deep history, so her understanding of the desolate forbidden area must be much better than him. Therefore she must know more than him. This was also one of the reasons why he brought her along. He needed someone who understood the situation to help him determine his next move. Some opportunities could not be found with the treasure locating skill alone. The Seven Emotions sect does have a lot of records about the desolate forbidden area. Among them, there are a few special great opportunities lands in the desolate forbidden area. Each time the forbidden area opens, all the sky prides will fight for it. For example, the ancient cave of treasures, the ancient Taoist lake, the 8 remoteness dragon mountain, and so on. Most of these great opportunities lands follow a certain pattern. According to my calculations, the ancient cave of treasures will open in a few days. Leng Ningyu pondered for a while and said. The more Chu Kuangren listened, the more amazed he was. Alright, then let's go to the ancient cave of treasures. Besides Chu Kuangren and his group, the other sky prides were also heading to the ancient cave of treasures. It was a great opportunities land that many sky prides did not want to miss. Inside a mountain range, a ray of red light suddenly shot into the sky, and a surge of surging energy instantly erupted, engulfing tens of thousands of kilometers. All living beings were pressed to the ground by this surge of energy, trembling in fear. That red light gradually revealed a silhouette. It was a woman dressed in bright red armor and holding a red longsword. It was Bai Hongyu from the Bai family. She sensed her own power in the air and smiled in satisfaction. The Emperor's body fragment is indeed not to be underestimated. It allowed me to directly break through to the boundary Emperor realm. I've long found my own Tao, and with this boundary Emperor realm and this sword, I can even fight a top-notch boundary Emperor. The ancient cave of treasures should be opening soon. It's time to go and see what kind of opportunities there are. Bai Hongyu murmured before she turned into a ray of red light and disappeared. Somewhere else. A dazzling 5-colored light suddenly erupted from a cave. A figure dressed in a brocade robe slowly walked out of the light. That figure was bathed in the 5-colored light and was surrounded by the 5 elements qi. It was as if a deity king had descended. My natural divine ability, the divine 5 elements wheel, has been upgraded. Not only that, but my cultivation has also improved greatly. Even if I were to face an Emperor Realm cultivator now, I won't be defeated so easily. Chu Kuangren, the next time we meet, I'll definitely surprise you. That person was Wang Quan from the Wang family. He looked into the distance and said, It's time for me to explore the ancient cave of treasures and see how much I've improved. On a mountain peak, a young man opened his eyes abruptly, and a burst of sharp sword chi erupted from his eyes. The sword chi sliced through the surroundings, instantly tearing apart and destroying everything around him. I've completely refined the Sword Emperor's inheritance. I'm now very strong. Besides that, I've only refined 4 finger bones from the Sword Emperor's body. Even so, my cultivation has already reached the level of a top-notch boundary Emperor. Even if I've lost the 4 divine sword bestial, I've still gained a lot this time. Jian Daozi said excitedly. He took a deep breath and took out 2 swords. Both of them were Emperor weapons. They were the Gold Emperor Divine Sword of the Swordsman and the Emerald Divine Sword of the Azure Sword Emperor. With these 2 Emperor weapons, Chu Kuangren, let's see how you're going to fight me this time. Jian Daozi was in high spirits at that thought. He looked into the distance. I hope I'll meet you in the ancient cave of treasures. When that time comes, I'll let you know that I'm the one who stands at the peak of Sword Dao in this era. At that moment, a jade scroll at Jian Daozi's waist vibrated. Is that the swordsman's signal? Jian Daozi was slightly surprised. In a flash, he disappeared from where he was and headed towards the source of the signal. Not long after, he arrived at the source of the signal. There, he met a few people from the swordsman and a familiar face. It's you, Li Salong? Jian Daozi glanced at Li Salong and then at the Crimson Serpent Princess beside him with a strange look in his eyes. Forbidden Sky Pride, Crimson Serpent Princess. Is something the two of you need from me? Jian Daozi said calmly as he looked at the Crimson Serpent Princess with a condescending look. Chapter 585. The Crimson Serpent Queen stared at Jian Daozi with a hint of fear in her eyes. She could sense an extremely powerful aura emanating from Jian Daozi, an aura that made her feel extremely threatened. The person before her was very powerful. It seems like Jian Daozi has encountered many opportunities of fortune in the barren forbidden area. The Crimson Serpent Queen smiled. Jian Daozi's expression was indifferent when he heard her words. Cut the crap. Tell me, why exactly are you looking for me? You. The Crimson Serpent Queen was a little angry, but she could only suppress her anger when she thought that Jian Daozi might be stronger than her. She took a deep breath and said, I'm looking for you because of Chu Kuangren. Chu Kuangren? Jian Daozi's eyes flashed coldly when he heard that name. You're looking for me because of him? What do you mean? Jian Daozi is very powerful, so let me ask you this. If you were to face Chu Kuangren, do you have the confidence to win? Li Solong asked. If I meet him again, I'll show him with my sword who's the strongest in Sword Dao. Oh, it seems like you're very confident. If that's the case, I have a very unfortunate news for you. Leng Ningyu is already with Chu Kuangren. Li Solong said. Say that again. Jian Daozi's expression darkened. Leng Ningyu is already with Chu Kuangren. Not only that, but they even have intimate relations. What? Jian Daozi's expression changed drastically when he heard that news. He was so furious that countless sword chi shot out from his body and swept across the area. In an instant, the ground around them was torn apart by the sword chi. Li Solong and the Crimson Serpent Queen were both under extreme pressure. They were extremely surprised that Jian Daozi had improved so much. At the same time, Li Solong was quite happy. To him, the stronger Jian Daozi was, the more confident he would be in dealing with Chu Kuangren. Chu Kuangren. Jian Daozi roared into the sky, his eyes red. Jian Daozi, please calm down. I too hate Chu Kuangren to the core. I'm here to cooperate with you to defeat him. Jian Daozi took a deep breath and calmed himself down. He knew that Li Solong, like him, was once Leng Ningyu's suitor, so he should hate Chu Kuangren just as much. The enemy of my enemy is my friend. Hence, Jian Daozi did not reject the offer. Alright, if that's the case, let's head to the ancient cave of myriad treasures together. Perhaps Chu Kuangren will head there. A fierce battle had broken out in a certain mountain forest. The two combatants were a silver-haired woman and a tiger-like ferocious beast with two heads. The two sides fought fiercely, and the surrounding mountains were shattered one after another. Brr. The two heads of the vicious beast roared, and a terrifying sound wave mixed with violent spiritual energy pushed the woman back. The silver-haired woman stood proudly in the air, wearing a gorgeous silver-white armor with runes flowing on it. It was incomparably mystical. The woman's silver hair fluttered in the wind, and her beautiful face had a rarely seen valiant expression. Her entire body exuded a sacred aura, making her seem like a valkyrie. Judgment of light. A large amount of light chi gathered in the silver-haired woman's hand and turned into a white spear. With a yell, she threw it out. The spear moved like lightning and pierced into one of the ferocious beast's heads. Then the spear exploded, and the terrifying light chi instantly blasted the head apart. Then a large amount of white flames spread out and attached themselves to the ferocious beast's body, burning it. The white flames were extremely terrifying and difficult to extinguish. No matter how hard the ferocious beast struggled, it could not break free. All it could do was let out a series of painful howls. Not far away, a group of cultivators in white robes watched the scene with awe in their eyes. She's too strong. I can't believe the maiden sage has mastered the divine light flame technique to such a level in such a short time. Yeah, the supreme holy body is indeed the most suitable for this technique. The maiden sage must have been guided by the deity king for her to come to our sect. The cultivators whispered to each other. Among the crowd, there was a pair of eyes that looked at the gorgeous silver-white figure with complicated emotions. It was a young man. As he looked at the silver-white figure, his eyes were filled with cold jealousy and hatred, but it was also mixed with affection. It was a very contradictory feeling. At that moment, a hand landed on the young man's shoulder. It was an old man in the crowd. He said lightly, "Bear with it for a few more days. All of this will eventually belong to you, my lord sage." "I understand, elder." Boom. Another spear shot out. The two-headed ferocious beast could no longer resist the silver-haired woman and was completely killed. After doing all that, the woman came in front of the ferocious beast and dug out a crystal from its body. This was the ferocious beast's spirit crystal. It was something similar to a cultivator's golden core. Generally speaking, it was useless to human warriors. The spirit crystal of the ferocious beast contained too much spirit chi, so it was difficult for human cultivators to absorb it. But the woman grabbed the crystal and a white flame rose from her palm. After a while, the tyrannical aura on the spiritual power crystal gradually disappeared. The cultivation technique she practiced was special. It could actually purify the tyrannical chi on the surface, making it easier to absorb the spiritual power crystal. Saintess, you have become even stronger. The group of white-robed cultivators walked up and an old man said with a smile. The silver-haired woman's expression was indifferent. She nodded slightly. Third Elder, are there any other opportunities in this barren forbidden land? Not far up ahead is a place called the Ancient Cave of Treasures. That place is a place of great fortune and we can go there to fight for it. However, there will definitely be a large number of geniuses gathered there. At that time, it will be hard to avoid a fierce battle. This time we came to the Forbidden Land to fight for opportunities. If we are afraid of a fierce battle, why did we come? Ah, you're right, Holy Maiden. Furthermore, with your current strength, even I might not be a match for you, let alone the other geniuses. This time around, Holy Maiden, you will definitely be able to come out on top. The young man walked up and said with a smile on his face. His words doubled the confidence of the other cultivators. The Lord Sage is a forbidden genius. Even he said so. It is obvious that the Saintess' strength is now. That's right. This time, the Saintess will definitely come first and let the world know how powerful the Divine Radiant cult is. The compliments from the crowd did not make the silver-haired woman happy at all. She looked into the distance and murmured, I wonder if the young master has come to this barren forbidden land. If he has, I wonder if we can meet him in the treasure ancient cave. The young holy son heard the silver-haired woman's murmur and frowned. This was not the first time he heard the words young master from her. But no matter how he asked, she refused to reveal anything. Who is that young master? Why are you so obsessed with him? The young holy son's eyes revealed a hint of jealousy. However, he hid it very well. In the next second, his face was once again plastered with a smile that made people feel like they were bathing in the spring breeze. Chapter 586. The Ancient Cave of Treasures was a place of great fortune within the barren forbidden grounds. Legend had it that the first batch of emperors was born where the barren forbidden grounds was formed. One of them was called the Emperor of Many Treasures. This ancient cave of treasures was where that person once lived. The Emperor of Many Treasures had once set up a restriction in this ancient cave, causing all sorts of treasures to appear every once in a while. Therefore, every time the barren forbidden grounds opened, the ancient cave of treasures would attract a large number of prodigies. On a huge stone wall that was tens of thousands of meters tall, there were many caves on it. These caves were connected to each other as if they were some kind of formation. They gave off an extremely mysterious aura, and the inside of these ancient caves was filled with spiritual chi that was so dense that it was almost tangible. The spiritual energy formed a fog, making it difficult for others to see what was happening within the caves. However, one could faintly see the glow of treasures flickering within the caves. This place was the Ancient Cave of Treasures. There was more than one Ancient Cave of Treasures. All the caves on the stone wall were ancient caves of treasures. Outside the stone wall, many prodigies had already gathered. These prodigies were either scattered or gathered in groups of 2 or 3. They were all waiting for the treasures that were brewing within the ancient cave to appear. Looking at the time, the tide of treasures should be arriving soon. Yes, indeed. As long as the spiritual energy within the ancient cave of treasures reaches its peak, the treasures will appear. Tisk tiske, it's a pity that this ancient cave of treasures has a restriction and outsiders can't enter. Otherwise, I would definitely go in and take a look. That's true, whoosh. At this moment, a ray of red light flew over and turned into a woman in bright red armor. It was Bai Hongyu. Seeing this person, no one was surprised. An opportunity like the ancient cave of treasures was something that even the forbidden prodigies wouldn't want to miss. However, when the other prodigies saw Bai Hongyu, they couldn't help but retreat a little. When the treasures appeared, they wouldn't be able to compete with Bai Hongyu. Fortunately, this ancient cave of treasures was covered with stone walls, and this stone wall extended for dozens of miles. There were hundreds and thousands of ancient caves on it, so there was no need for them to focus on just one ancient cave and compete with these forbidden geniuses. Other than Bai Hongyu, the other forbidden prodigies also arrived. A 5-colored light flashed in the sky and a person stepped on it. His aura was imposing as if a divine king had descended, and his might shook everyone present. Oh, royal power! Bai Hongyu narrowed her eyes. Buzz buzz buzz. At this moment the earth was shaking and the surrounding mountains were rumbling. A dark-skinned man with a horn on his head walked over with his head held high. With every step he took, the ground shook. It was the forbidden prodigy of the ox demon, Nyo Dali. The primordial ferocious beasts have also come. The forbidden prodigies appeared one after another, their auras extraordinary. At this moment, a sword light whizzed over, and the swords in the hands of all the swordsmen present could not help but tremble. It was as if they were respectfully welcoming the King of Swords. The strange phenomenon caused many swordsmen to narrow their eyes. Such a Tao of the sword. It's him. Jian Daozi of the sword folk. The sword light arrived at the scene and manifested in the air, transforming into a young man in a golden robe. It was Jian Daozi. The sword chi he exuded was extremely chilling, causing all the forbidden prodigies present to feel solemn. What a powerful sword chi! Could he have already reached the level of a peak great emperor? And this Tao of the sword is at least at the greater mastery stage. Looks like his fortuitous encounters are not shallow, to be able to reach this step. Bai Hongyu gripped the crimson dragon phoenix saber in her hand, her eyes filled with surprise. She had thought that her fortuitous encounters were already great, but she did not expect Jian Daozi's improvement to be even greater than hers. Boom! A monstrous murderous aura suddenly shot up into the sky from the mountain range. The murderous aura was like a flood, condensing into a giant black silhouette in the sky. Its battle roar echoed through the clouds and shook the mountains. Many cultivators were affected by the terrifying murderous aura and battle intent. They could not help but feel their spiritual energy surge uncontrollably. Damn, which taboo is this? This aura, could it be the rumored supreme Taoist physique, the infallible tormented physique? Who is it? Everyone looked toward the source of the murderous aura and saw a young man in a black robe slowly walking over. The murderous aura around him was so strong that it was not weaker than Jian Daozi's. Bai Hongyu was slightly surprised. Oh, the Sha clan's taboo Sha Wuxia. The Sha clan was an ancient orthodoxy from the Nine Skies. And Sha Wuxia was like Bai Hongyu, a taboo genius from the Nine Skies. Looks like the competition in the treasure ancient cave will not be too boring. Jian Daozi said softly. He stood with his hands behind his back and looked at Sha Wuxia with a hint of battle intent. The way he saw it, among all the geniuses present, perhaps only Sha Wuxia was qualified to be his opponent. Apart from Sha Wuxia, another taboo genius appeared. It was Tu Heng from the demon race. This person's aura was also tyrannical, and it was obvious that he had encountered some fortuitous encounters. However, compared to Jian Daozi and Sha Wuxia, he was still slightly weaker. In the crowd, everyone looked at the gathering of the taboo geniuses and could not help but sigh. There are so many geniuses in this generation. I wonder who will be the next emperor. There are indeed unprecedented changes in this world. A pair of eyes stared at these people with a hint of eagerness in their eyes. It was a young man holding a sword. His eyes shone with yin and yang light. I wonder how much weaker I am compared to these taboo geniuses now. The sword-wielding young man murmured. He had an urge to find one of the taboo geniuses and fight it out. However, he knew that the current situation was not suitable for him to do so, so he suppressed this impulse. It's you, Nangong Huang. At that moment, a surprised voice suddenly rang out. Tuba, who was beside Tu Heng, had noticed Nangong Huang. Nangong Huang was also very surprised. He did not expect that person to recognize him. What's the matter, Tuba? Do you know that person? Tu Heng looked at Tuba and said. Tuba nodded slightly. He's from the Firmament Black Heaven sect. He's a sky pride from the Soaring Dragon leaderboard. Upon hearing that, everyone looked indifferent. They were not interested at all. He's just a sky pride from the outside world. There's nothing to pay attention to. Indeed, but the Black Heaven sect that he's from is a little special. Tuba smirked and said, the sect leader of the Black Heaven sect is Chu Kuangren. Swoosh swoosh swoosh, instantly the taboo genius's gazes fell on Nangong Huang. He's Chu Kuangren's man. Humph, Chu Kuangren. What an annoying name. Jian Daozi, Wang Quan, Bai Hongyu, and the others immediately looked at him with hostility. They hated Chu Kuangren, so naturally they did not have a good impression of the Black Heaven sect. The Black Heaven sect is not welcome here. You scram immediately. Bai Hongyu said indifferently. Nangong Huang knew that something was wrong when he heard Tuba's words. He had some understanding of his sect leader's troublemaking methods. The ancient cave of treasures does not belong to you. You have no right to occupy it. The ancient sword at Nangong Huang's waist trembled slightly as he said. He was already eager to try out the taboo sky prides, but he did not expect the opportunity to be presented to him so soon. Chapter 587. Qualifications? You want to talk to me about qualifications? Bai Hongyu smiled coldly. With a lift of her hand, boundless spiritual energy gushed out and formed a huge red seal in the void, smashing down on Nangong Huang. It was the Bai family's emperor technique, Heaven Worship Seal. The appearance of the Heaven Worship Seal caused the ground around Nangong Huang to cave in. Is this the combat strength of a forbidden prodigy? As expected, you can't be underestimated. Nangong Huang was solemn but also excited. He unsheathed the long sword at his waist. Although it was only a pseudo-emperor weapon, it was a yin-yang attribute pseudo-emperor weapon, which was very compatible with his yin-yang god-eye physique. Yin-yang fire. Nangong Huang swung his sword, and a dazzling sword ray bloomed, turning into a sword ray burning with black and white flames. The sword light whistled out while extremely piercingly cold, and it slashed ferociously onto the Heaven Worship Seal. The void around them exploded. The Heaven Worship Seal and the sword ray exploded, and many prodigies were forced to retreat. Bai Hongyu's face instantly darkened. Nangong Huang actually blocked her attack. Looks like I've underestimated you. But even so, how many moves can you take? Bai Hongyu snorted and used the red dragon phoenix blade in her hand. It was an emperor weapon. Everyone couldn't help but be amazed at the sight. A forbidden prodigy had to use an emperor weapon to deal with an outsider prodigy. It seemed like Nangong Huang's strength was extraordinary. Even if he wasn't as strong as a forbidden prodigy, he was still above the top prodigies. Heaven Worship Blade Technique. Bai Hongyu snorted and swung her blade down. Boundless spiritual energy gathered and formed a red blade shadow. Wherever the blade shadow passed, there was a scene of gods and demons kneeling and worshipping the heavens. The power of this attack was terrifying. Any prodigy below the level of a forbidden prodigy would definitely die if they tried to block it. However, Nangong Huang didn't retreat. Instead, he let out a long roar and took a step forward. The long sword in his hand trembled violently, and surging spiritual energy erupted. Yin-yang lightning, heaven destruction. The yin-yang divine light in Nangong Huang's eyes flowed continuously and was injected into the longsword in his hand. Black and white lightning intertwined, emitting a terrifying fluctuation. With a slash, the black and white lightning intertwined and turned into a domineering sword ray that met the blade shadow. The saber light and the sword chi collided with each other, causing the surrounding mountain walls to shatter. Nangong Huang was sent flying hundreds of feet away by the huge impact. Blood flowed from the corner of his mouth while Bai Hongyu could not help but take a few steps back. Her charming face was filled with anger and her eyes were gloomy. She had used her emperor weapon, but she still could not defeat Nangong Huang. She could even sense that the surrounding geniuses were looking at her with a hint of amusement in their eyes, as if they were questioning her powers. Are you kidding me? You're a taboo. You can't even deal with a prodigy from the outside world? Why don't you leave the group yourself? Although no one said it explicitly, Bai Hongyu could tell from their eyes that this was what they were thinking. Damn it. I'll finish you off with one more strike. Bai Hongyu flew into a rage out of humiliation. The monarch weapon in her hand shone with a resplendent red light and the silhouette of a dragon and a phoenix circled around the blade of the saber. Bursts of dense emperors might spread out. It was obvious that Bai Hongyu was going all out. She planned to finish off Nangong Huang with her next attack. Die. The saber light covered the sky as the power of the crimson dragon and phoenix saber erupted. The silhouette of a dragon and a phoenix charged towards Nangong Huang. At this critical moment, a scorching flaming sword light and a terrifying frosty aura exploded at the same time. They attacked the dragon and phoenix from both sides. With a loud explosion, the fiery aura and frosty aura spread out, burning and freezing everything in its path. A man and a woman suddenly appeared beside Nangong Huang. Murong Xian Qingxue. Nangong Huang looked at the two of them in surprise. They were the Taoists of the Black Heaven sect, Murong Xian and Shang Qingxue. Yo Nangong Huang, you look a little pathetic. Murong Xian looked at Nangong Huang and smiled. That's a taboo prodigy. Why don't you try? Nangong Huang curled his lips. It seemed like he was still a distance away from becoming a taboo prodigy. Shang Qingxue, who was beside him, rolled her eyes. You two are still bickering at a time like this. She took out a drop of green liquid and shot it into Nangong Huang's mouth with a flick of her finger. A huge burst of vitality instantly healed most of Nangong Huang's injuries. Even his spiritual power had recovered quite a bit. Fortunately, I still have some earth vein essences left in me. Shang Qingxue said as she looked at the taboo prodigies in the air cautiously. The situation was not looking good. One taboo prodigy was enough to take them down, not to mention the few in front of them who were hostile towards them. Earth vein essences? What's your relationship with Chu Kuangren? Bai Hongyu asked coldly. Earth vein essences were so precious. Who would give it to someone who was not close to them? It's none of your business. It doesn't matter if you don't want to tell me. I didn't want to kill you guys, but since you've provoked me again and again, don't blame me for being merciless. The crimson dragon and phoenix saber in Bai Hongyu's hand shone brighter and brighter. You didn't look like you didn't want to kill us at all. Murong Xian sneered. Kill? Bai Hongyu yelled. Without another word, she activated her surging spiritual power and unleashed another sword ray. Murong Xian and the other two joined forces to fight back. The three of them had their own opportunities in the Emperor's path and had improved tremendously. With their combined forces, even Bai Hongyu could not take them down in a short time. This enraged her. After all, she had obtained an opportunity of fortune in the barren forbidden area, and her strength had far surpassed her previous self. Initially, she had planned to compete with Chu Kuangren. However, she could not even take down 3 of Chu Kuangren's disciples. With her current strength, how was she supposed to compete with him? The more she thought about it, the angrier she got, and her attacks became even more domineering. Powerful sword rays, accompanied by the horrifying scene of gods and demons kneeling, were constantly reflected in the void. Murong Xian swung the long sword in his hand, and the scorching fiery sword rays almost burned the heavens and earth into ashes. His cultivation level had reached the boundary emperor level, and on top of that, he had cultivated a powerful emperor-grade technique. His spiritual power was so high that it was not much weaker than a top-tier boundary emperor's. Shang Qingshua's combat strength was not weak either. After her encounter at the Celestial Mountain Lake, her Taoist physique had been upgraded to the Supreme Taoist physique level, and the chill that she could unleash was extremely terrifying. The chill was like a tidal wave coming wave after wave. Even a top-tier boundary emperor would have to be extra careful when facing it. Nangong Huang's divine yin-yang light flowed and merged with the sword rays. The 3 of them joined forces to fight the forbidden beast. For a moment, it seemed like they were going to suppress Bai Hongyu. Everyone could clearly see that if Bai Hongyu did not have an emperor weapon in her hand, she would have already lost. Humph, what a disgrace to the forbidden beast. A cold snort was heard as Jian Daozi made his move. With a lift of his arm, 3 sword rays were unleashed, and in an instant, Nangong Huang and the other 2 were forced to retreat. Jian Daozi took a step forward and arrived before the 3 of them. Sword-based Taoist rhymes poured out from his body, and the domineering aura was so strong that it almost suffocated the 3 of them. Although they were both forbidden beasts, Jian Daozi's current strength was undoubtedly much stronger than Bai Hongyu's. 3 sword attacks. If you can survive 3 of my sword attacks, I'll let you leave this place. Jian Daozi said in a menacing tone. Oh, why don't you let me take on those 3 sword attacks? At that moment, a cold voice was heard. Along with it, a vast light chi surged in the sky. Chapter 588. Why don't you let me take on those 3 attacks instead? A cold and indifferent voice suddenly rang out. Suddenly, a large amount of white light shone from afar, and a surging light aura surged. The light aura was so majestic that it almost lit up half the sky. The demonic cultivator Tu Hung squinted at the white aura and felt a little annoyed. Their demonic chi was inclined towards darkness, so it was only natural that they were annoyed by this light aura. Besides the demonic cultivators, some of the black-robed cultivators in the crowd could not help but frown. This aura, it's that group of sanctimonious people. However, this voice is a little unfamiliar and it's such a powerful light aura. Since when did the Radiant sect have someone like this? The black-robed cultivators looked at each other in confusion. Nangong Huang, Murong Xian, and Shang Qingxue seemed to have thought of something, and their eyes were filled with excitement. It's her. Within the vast white light, a silver-haired lady in a gorgeous silver-white armor slowly walked out. Wherever she went, a large amount of light aura intertwined and formed into blossoms of white divine fire that paved a path of light in all directions. The sacred lady's journey, paved with divine fire. The scene before them caused everyone present to be shocked. Many people could not help but look at the silver-white figure with infatuation in their eyes. Oh my God, she's so beautiful. So holy. Is this really a goddess that has descended into the mortal world? Who is this lady? Her aura is too extraordinary. The crowd discussed among themselves. Even the forbidden sky prides could not help but be moved. On the other hand, Murong Xian and the other two were excited. Really is Lan Yu. She's here, and she looks many times stronger than when she first entered the Emperor's path. What a powerful aura. As expected of Lan Yu. The newcomer was the new sacred lady of the Divine Radiant sect, a disciple of the Black Heaven sect, and the closest person to Chu Kuangren, Lan Yu. Behind Lan Yu, the Radiant sect's cultivators also appeared one by one. Their appearance caused the cultivators at the scene to start discussing among themselves. The Divine Radiant sect. It's the Divine Radiant sect. The Radiant God Church and the Dark God Church are the two great churches in the Emperor's Road. They have a long history and can be said to be one of the oldest ancient orthodoxies. This woman has such a large entourage. Look, even the forbidden prodigy, the Light Saint, is behind her. This woman's status in the God sect is unimaginable. Lan Yu appeared. Her stunning beauty and holy aura instantly became the focus of everyone's attention. Even Jian Daozi and Wang Quan, who were used to seeing all sorts of beauties, didn't have their eyes light up and reveal looks of amazement. Since when did the Radiant God cult have someone like you? It's fine during the day, but why don't you explain? Jian Daozi asked the Radiant Saint, Bai Tianxing, who was standing behind Lan Yu. Bai Tianxing smiled faintly and said, "She is the new Holy Virgin of the Divine Radiant cult. The position of the Radiant Church's saintess has been vacant for many years. I didn't expect that you would actually find it. But why do you want to interfere in this matter?" Jian Daozi asked indifferently. Bai Tianxing also looked at Lan Yu in confusion. Lan Yu did not explain too much. She looked at Jian Daozi indifferently and said, "If you want to hurt them, you'll have to get past me first." The Black Heaven sect was Chu Kuangren's sect, and it was her home. Nangong Huang, Murong Xian, and Shang Qingxue were like family to her. How could she sit back and watch Jian Daozi hurt them? "Oh, it seems like you're determined to interfere in this matter." Jian Daozi raised an eyebrow. Lan Yu's temperament and appearance were indeed stunning to him, but he would not go easy on her just because of that. "Make your move," Lan Yu said indifferently. "Then let me witness the strength of the Radiant Church's saintess." Jian Daozi's body gradually emitted a cold and domineering sword qi that caused the surrounding swords to tremble. "I've said it before. If they can block 3 of my sword attacks, I'll let them leave this place alive. Now, since you want to stand up, I'll let you block 3 of my sword attacks." Jian Daozi raised his hand and unleashed the first sword attack. The sword qi flew out like quicksilver and descended from the sky. Lan Yu stood where she was with a ball of white divine fire burning in the center of her palm. With a single palm attack, the divine light flame shook off the sword ray. When the two energies collided, the divine fire shattered and the sword ray disintegrated. The surrounding sky prides took a few steps back. Lan Yu, on the other hand, was as steady as a mountain. "Is that all the exquisite 9 orifices sword heart has? Compared to my master, you're nothing." From what she said, it seemed like the master she mentioned also had the exquisite 9 orifices sword heart. Hearing this, everyone's eyes were filled with contemplation. Jian Daozi's eyes narrowed. "The master you're talking about is Chu Kuangren." Not only him, but the Radiant Church's bachelor sage, Bai Tianxing's eyes also flashed. "So that master is Chu Kuangren? Come, show me your second sword attack. Let me see how much of my master's strength you can achieve with your full strength." Lan Yu did not directly answer Jian Daozi's question. However, to the crowd she had already admitted it. At that thought the crowd could not help but be amazed. "I can't believe the Radiant Church's saintess is so respectful to Chu Kuangren. TSK, what a surprise. TSK, Chu Kuangren's methods are really impressive." Indeed. Among the crowd, Li Salong was also there. He looked at Lan Yu with jealousy and hatred. F***CK, why are all these beauties related to Chu Kuangren? Leng Ningyu, the mystic sword guard, and now Lan Yu, all of them were stunning beauties, peerless sky prides, and each of them had a higher status than the last. Anyone who's related to Chu Kuangren is my enemy. Even the Radiant Church's saintess is no exception. Jian Daozi snorted coldly as his sword-based Taoist rhyme erupted. His spiritual power surged and formed an illusory sword shadow in the void. As the sword slashed down, it was accompanied by a violent storm. The void cracked like a mirror, and streaks of white patterns appeared. Tempest Sword. Lan Yu remained calm in the face of the Tempest Sword. The silver-white armor on her body shone brightly, and the holy radiant qi seeped out from her body. Divine Radiant Shield. The holy radiant qi erupted and formed a divine shield that burned with white flames. The Tempest Sword collided with the divine shield, causing a loud explosion that shook the surroundings. The shield shattered, and the Tempest Sword's remaining energy penetrated the shield and swept towards Lan Yu, forcing her to take a few steps back. "You're quite strong indeed." Lan Yu patted the dust off her armor and said indifferently, "You still have one last attack. You can't block the last attack. Be careful, the wind is too strong and you might bite your tongue." Jian Daozi's spiritual power surged as his 3 Daoist physique transformations erupted. This was the last attack. Jian Daozi's spiritual power erupted, and his sword-based Daoist rhyme and spiritual power were pushed to their limits, forming a 4-colored sword shadow that contained the 4 elements of earth, wind, water, and fire. Although he had lost his sword Yuan, his 4 divine sword Dao was still there. Even after refining the Azure Mystic Sword Emperor's inheritance, his understanding of the 4 divine sword Dao had reached a whole new level. As the sword slashed down, the sword shadow formed by the 4 divine energies was dazzling as it slashed towards Lan Yu. Spear of Judgment. Lan Yu's divine radiant flame turned into a divine spear that instantly shot out. A divine spear and a sword shadow collided. Both Lan Yu and Jian Daozi were forced back nearly 100 feet each. Chapter 589. So powerful. That attack just now is probably close to the level of a martial emperor. The surrounding sky prides were shocked to witness the clash between the divine spear and the sword shadow. Even the forbidden sky prides felt exceptionally solemn. Originally, no sky prides could reach the level of a martial emperor. Those who did were all boundary emperors with deep foundations. However, with the emergence of the martial emperor realm, all sorts of opportunities emerged one after another. The sky prides improved by leaps and bounds. Some of the sky prides even had combat strength close to that of a martial emperor. "I told you to be careful of your tongue," Lan Yu said calmly. She was unscathed after taking 3 attacks from Jian Daozi head-on. Without a doubt, her combat strength had reached the level of a forbidden sky pride. She was no weaker than a forbidden sky pride like Jian Daozi. "Humph, I didn't use my full strength just now." After his 3 swords had been blocked, Jian Daozi felt like he had lost all face and snorted coldly. What he said wasn't entirely a lie. At least, he hadn't used his emperor weapon yet. 3 attacks have passed. You can say whatever you want." Lan Yu said coldly as her gaze swept across the crowd. "Now, does anyone else want to hurt them?" The crowd looked at each other. No one dared to answer. Lan Yu was too powerful. Even the forbidden sky prides were not willing to make an enemy out of her. Among the crowd, some of the black-robed cultivators looked at each other with shock and worry in their eyes. These people were cultivators from the Thuli Order. The Thuli Order was also the Divine Radiant Church's mortal enemy. They had been fighting each other for many years. The Divine Radiant Church's bachelor saint was already difficult enough to deal with. Now that they have a saintess, I'm afraid it will be even more difficult to deal with them. Yeah, the Thuli Order cannot be at a disadvantage. We must find the next saintess as soon as possible. The cultivators of the Thuli Order communicated with each other through their spiritual thoughts. At that moment, they sensed a dark aura sweeping towards them from afar. This aura, it's the bachelor saint. The cultivators of the Thuli Order looked into the distance excitedly. Aha, the saintess of the Divine Radiant Church. Interesting. I'm going to kill the people you want to protect. A powerful and domineering palm energy with boundless dark aura shot towards them. Its target was Nangong Huang, Murong Xian, and Shang Qingxue. "How dare you!" Lan Yu shouted coldly and appeared in front of the palm energy in a flash. A large amount of holy and radiant aura gushed out in an instant, and a palm blasted out. White flames that seemed to burn the world fell on the black palm energy. An earth-shattering explosion rang out. The aura of darkness and light constantly clashed, causing the void to explode. The violent airwaves came one after another. Amidst this terrifying aura, a black-haired, black-robed figure with a dark aura surging all over his body charged toward them. The Saint of the Darkness sect, Feng Mo. Both the Radiant God cult and the Dark God cult's Heaven's Pride warriors are here. They won't fight, will they? It's possible. One had to know that light and darkness were incompatible. This was something that almost everyone on the Emperor's Road knew. For the sake of faith, these 2 great sects had waged countless holy wars since ancient times. Feng Mo. Bai Tianxing's eyes narrowed. He was a little surprised. "Your aura has become much stronger. This is my opportunity. I didn't expect that you would let a woman climb on top of you during the day." The Saint of Darkness, Feng Mo, glanced at Bai Tianxing and sneered. As soon as he said this, Bai Tianxing's expression darkened. His eyes flashed with coldness. If you want to fight, I'll accompany you to the end. I'm more interested in this saint now. Feng Mo ignored Bai Tianxing and looked at Lan Yu. Lan Yu also looked at him, but her eyes were extremely cold. Just now this person had wanted to kill Shang Qingxue and the rest. Just this alone was enough to provoke Lan Yu's killing intent. Saint of Light, I said that if you want to protect these three, then I will kill them. Feng Mo said, his eyes filled with mockery. He did not know the three of them at all, but just because Lan Yu wanted to protect them, he would kill them. In fact, this was the first time he met Lan Yu. However, darkness and light were destined to be incompatible. Therefore they were destined to be enemies. You're courting death. Feng Mo's words triggered Lan Yu's killing intent. The anger of light exploded. A vast aura of light poured out from Lan Yu's body in an endless stream, forcing Feng Mo to retreat a few feet. So powerful, no wonder you can climb over Bai Tianxing's head. But, have you ever seen the despair of darkness? Feng Mo snorted. The dark aura on his body exploded as well, fighting against Lan Yu's light aura. Light and darkness, the most incompatible existences, exploded into an extreme conflict. The two forces collided, causing the ground to crack. One by one, the cultivators were forced back by the terrifying impact. Spear of Judgment. Lan Yu did not waste any time and immediately used his ultimate move. A large amount of divine light fire turned into a spear and was thrown out. The power of the spear was so strong that even Feng Mo could not help but be surprised. Blade of Despair. Feng Mo suddenly took out a black long sword. There were gorgeous gems embedded on it, but it was surging with an extremely pure dark aura. With one slash, the black sword ray wrapped with the power of darkness landed on the white divine spear. Bang! A loud explosion was heard, followed by an even more intense impact. Feng Mo and Lan Yu were both forced back. Dark Void Extermination. As Feng Mo retreated, an extremely powerful dark spiritual power erupted from his body and was continuously injected into the long sword. A surge of dark Taoist rhyme erupted and turned into a terrifying sword ray. Everywhere it passed, the void was shrouded in darkness and everything was destroyed. Divine light illuminates the world. Before Lan Yu raised her hand, a large amount of light aura circulated in the void and gathered in the center of her palm. A ray of divine light, like the first ray of light from the primordial chaos, illuminated the world. The two forces of divine light and dark Taoist intertwined in the air and then exploded. It was as if the sun and moon had exploded, and the deafening explosion caused the clouds to rumble endlessly. Light and darkness alternated between the heavens and the earth. In the end, both divine light and darkness returned to nothingness. Sage, let me lend you a hand, Bai Tianxing said. As a bachelor sage of the Divine Radiant Church, he also had the responsibility to fight against the Dark God Church. As soon as he made his move, Jian Daozi also made his move. You want to bully me with numbers? You'll have to see if I agree to it. Jian Daozi did not have much of a relationship with the Dark God Church, but he did not mind helping him out here to take down Lan Yu's spirit. After all, Lan Yu was related to Chu Kuangren. The Myriad Treasures ancient cave does not welcome anyone who is related to Chu Kuangren, Bai Hongyu said as she stood on Feng Mo's side. Although I don't want to be enemies with the Divine Radiant Church, it's your fault for protecting Chu Kuangren's people. Wang Quan of the Wang family said as he looked at Lan Yu and the others indifferently. How can we demons miss out on attacking Chu Kuangren? Tu Hung of the demon tribe took a step forward as the demonic qi on his body surged. It was similar to Feng Mo's dark qi, but it was more sinister. The Dark God Church, the Swordsman, the Wang family, the Bai family, and the demonic tribe had joined forces to suppress Lan Yu. Bai Tianxing's brows furrowed slightly, and he wanted to retreat. Saintess, the situation is not good. Your young master has provoked too many people. Lan Yu turned a deaf ear to him and stood in front of the three without backing down. I'll say it again. If you want to hurt them, you'll have to get past me first. If that's the case, don't blame us for this. Jian Daozi sneered. Just when the Forbidden Sky Prides were about to make their move, a gorgeous long sword wrapped in boundless sharpness swept over from the horizon, and without any deviation, it stabbed right in the middle of the two groups of people. A majestic sword chi erupted from the sword and swept across the area. The Forbidden Sky Pride's expressions changed slightly as they retreated. How dare you hurt my Black Heaven sex people? A cold voice echoed in the void as if a deity was about to descend. Chapter 590. How bold of you to hurt my Black Heaven sex people, ha! The gorgeous ancient sword stabbed right in the middle of the two opposing parties. A cold voice rang out and the surrounding air seemed to freeze. That voice was laced with an extremely cold murderous intent. As the clouds rumbled, a handsome figure with black hair and a white robe descended from the sky. It was none other than Chu Kuangren. Behind him were three beautiful women. They were Leng Ningyu, Red Moon, and the Mystic Sword Sentinel. Jian Daozi's eyes almost popped out of their sockets when he saw that. His eyes were filled with hatred. The Mystic Sword Sentinel was a peerless sky pride of the swordsman tribe. She used to adore him, and Leng Ningyu was the white moon in his heart. However, both of them were now by Chu Kuangren's side, especially the Mystic Sword Sentinel. She seemed to be following Chu Kuangren's lead. That infuriated him to the extreme. In the crowd, Li Salong's eyes were filled with hatred as well. Chu Kuangren, these forbidden sky prides are no longer what they used to be. Let's see how you're going to fight them. Chu Kuangren stepped through the air and landed beside the descendant self-sword. Nangong Huang, Murong Xian, and Shang Qingxue were all excited. Lan Yu was also stunned for a moment before she subconsciously stood behind Chu Kuangren, suppressing the excitement in her heart. Master, it's been a while. She glanced at the three women behind Chu Kuangren, trying to figure out their relationship with him. Yes, it's been a while. How have you been? I'm doing well. I just miss you. Of course, based on Lan Yu's reserved personality, she would never say what she wanted to say. I'll catch up with you after I take care of these little bugs. Chu Kuangren smiled. He was in a good mood to see Lan Yu again. Then he turned to look at Jian Daozi and the others. The smile on his face had completely disappeared, replaced by an extremely cold expression. You guys have gotten bolder. His cold words caused the surrounding spiritual chi to change, and the temperature in the void plummeted, sending chills down everyone's spines. Chu Kuangren, our strength today is no longer what it used to be. Do you really think that you can still dominate everything? Bai Hongyu snorted coldly as the scarlet dragon phoenix blade in her hand exploded with a resplendent red blade light. As the saber slashed down, a shadow of the saber appeared out of thin air. In the void, the image of gods and demons kneeling to the heavens appeared, and the phantom images of a dragon and a phoenix rushed out. Bai Hongyu had unleashed the full power of the monarch technique in monarch weapon. Anyone below the martial emperor realm would have to be extremely careful when facing this attack. If it was the old Chu Kuangren, he would have to be more careful when facing this attack. However, these forbidden prodigies were not the only ones who had improved. Chu Kuangren's improvement had far exceeded everyone's expectations. Faced with Bai Hongyu's attack, he condensed his sword fingers and lightly drew a line in the air. A dazzling purple sword light whizzed out. The sword light first shattered the saber shadow, then the dragon and the phoenix, and finally struck Bai Hongyu's body. Even with the protection of the scarlet armor, Bai Hongyu still couldn't help vomiting a mouthful of blood. She was sent flying like a kite with its string cut. Her powerful aura instantly withered as she laid on the ground in disbelief. With just one sword light, she who thought that she had improved a lot, was defeated. Defeated so quickly and so messed up. Is this what you mean by, the strong are brave? Woman, your stupidity has truly surprised me. Chu Kuangren glanced at Bai Hongyu and said indifferently. The other sky prides could not help but gulp as they watched in disbelief. No matter what, Bai Hongyu was still a forbidden prodigy. How could she be defeated with just one move? This kind of combat strength was a little too much for them to bear. His strength has indeed become more powerful. Wang Quan said with a serious expression. Even though he had improved a lot, he was not confident that he could take on that sword attack just now. One move. I only have one chance. If I can't defeat Chu Kuangren in one move, then I won't have another chance. Taking a deep breath, Wang Quan took a step forward and a dazzling five-colored brilliance burst out from his body. The brilliance constantly intertwined above his head and turned into a five-colored light wheel. An incomparably thick spiritual energy rippled out like a tide, wave after wave. Not only that, but he also took out an emperor weapon. It was a bell. A five-colored great bell that was engraved with mountains and rivers. It was the Wang family's emperor weapon, the five-elemental mountain river bell. Back then, the Wang family's mistress had used this bell against Chu Kuangren. Chu Kuangren, come and experience the power of my five-elemental mountain river sect after my five-elemental wheel has evolved. Wang Quan yelled. The five-elemental wheel above his head glowed brightly, and the five-elemental divine bell let out a series of bell chimes that shook the heavens. Five-elemental capturing technique. Wang Quan grabbed out with his hand and 5 rays of light shot out from his 5 fingers. They intertwined in the void to form a giant 5-colored hand that covered the sky and grabbed at Chu Kuangren. A surging domineering aura enveloped the heavens, shaking the mountains and rivers. You've mastered the 5 elemental force quite well, but unfortunately the 5 elemental force is still no match for my sword. Chu Kuangren's eyes narrowed, and the descendant self-sword that was stuck in the ground automatically unsheathed itself and hovered beside him. With a turn of the sword's edge, a cold sword ray shot out. The sword ray shot out like lightning, pierced through the clouds and landed on the 5 elemental hand. In an instant the 5 elemental hand was torn apart. The 5 elemental force shattered, and the sword ray was unstoppable as it locked onto Wang Quan. Wang Quan's expression changed drastically, and he hurriedly maneuvered the 5 elemental mountain river bell in front of him to block the incoming sword ray. The mountain river bell was sent flying and smashed onto Wang Quan's body, shattering the 5 elemental wheel above his head and shattering several of his bones before he was sent crashing into a mountain not far away. The mountain instantly exploded and smoke and dust filled the air. Although everyone could sense that there was still a weak aura inside, they knew that Wang Quan had lost. Just like Bai Hongyu, he was utterly defeated. This bell is not bad. Chu Kuangren glanced at the 5 elemental mountain river bell that was sent flying, and he channeled his mind power to retrieve it. The mountain river bell still wanted to resist, but Chu Kuangren forcefully suppressed it with his spiritual power. I can't believe this person's strength is so strong. Tu Heng, who initially wanted to attack Chu Kuangren, was so afraid that he did not dare to attack when he saw the tragic state that Bai Hongyu and Wang Quan were in. He quietly retreated. The other sky prides at the scene also kept quiet out of fear. At that moment, a cold sword-based Taoist rhyme erupted, and the swords in everyone's hands instantly trembled. Chu Kuangren sensed this Taoist rhyme and looked at Jian Daozi. I think it's about time for you to make your move. Chu Kuangren, let the grudge between us end today. Grudge? Hey, in your eyes it's a grudge, but to me it's just a game. Chu Kuangren smiled indifferently. He had never taken Jian Daozi seriously. To him, Jian Daozi was just like an ant. Who would have a grudge against an ant? Chapter 591. Jian Daozi glared at Chu Kuangren, his eyes flashing with unforgettable hatred. The exquisite 9 orifices sword heart's 3 Taoist physique transformations erupted, causing the surrounding swords to tremble and let out sword cries. Oh, so you want to have a duel with me? Chu Kuangren chuckled. Sure, it's just a game anyway. The sword-based Taoist rhyme on his body also erupted. A surge of sword-based Taoist rhyme that was even colder than Jian Daozi's spread out and covered a radius of tens of thousands of kilometers. The duel between the 2 exquisite 9 orifices sword hearts was so powerful that it caused countless swordsmen to raise their swords and hover in the air. What a powerful sword Dao. Oh my god, a duel between 2 exquisite 9 orifices sword hearts. This battle will definitely go down in the annals of swordsmanship. It's just too terrifying. Yeah. Everyone was in awe. Meanwhile, Chu Kuangren and Jian Daozi stood dozens of feet apart. One of them looked calm and composed, while the other was filled with extreme hatred. The hatred in his eyes was so intense that it could burn his enemies into ashes. Chu Kuangren, today I'll show you who stands at the peak of swordsmanship. 2 swords appeared in Jian Daozi's hands. One was the Golden Emperor sword, and the other was the Emerald Divine sword. When the 2 Emperor weapons appeared at the same time, they shone brightly, and waves of dense Emperor's aura spread out. Meanwhile, Jian Daozi's strength had reached the most terrifying level in his life. The surrounding swordsmen clicked their tongues in wonder. As expected of the exquisite 9 orifices sword heart, it can control 2 Emperor weapons at the same time. With 2 Emperor weapons, it's hard to imagine how terrifying Jian Daozi's strength is now. He can probably fight an Emperor realm cultivator now. Jian Daozi is too strong. Jian Daozi's power shocked everyone. Bai Hongyu, Tu Heng, and Wang Quan, who had just walked out of the ruins, were also shocked. I can't believe Jian Daozi's strength has increased to this level. Perhaps he can really fight Chu Kuangren. The Forbidden Sky Prides were filled with anticipation. They wanted Chu Kuangren to fail so badly. The other party had struck at their confidence time and time again. This kind of feeling almost caused their Dao hearts to collapse. Chu Kuangren, take out your Emperor weapon. Jian Daozi shouted coldly. Chu Kuangren chuckled when he heard that. I've never used my Emperor weapon against a Sky Pride of the same generation. That would be too much of a bully. Humph. How arrogant. Jian Daozi held an imperial weapon in each hand, which he slashed out with his right hand, causing the Gold Emperor Immortal Sword to emit a brilliant glow as a tempest of sword chi exploded out. With the support of the Emperor weapon, the power of this sword chi was even stronger than when it was used against Lan Yu. Wherever the sword chi passed, the void cracked and the earth shook. Break! Chu Kuangren focused his sword fingers and the Descendant Self-Sword circled around his body. With a gentle slash, that horrifying sword chi was instantly shattered. Seeing this, Jian Daozi slashed out with his sword again. Different from the storm sword, this sword was wrapped in scorching flames. However, that sword attack could not hurt Chu Kuangren in the slightest. 3 moves. Just as Jian Daozi was about to raise his hand to attack again, Chu Kuangren suddenly held up 3 fingers and said slowly, "I'll give you 3 more chances. After that, if you can't pique my interest, this time you shall die." Those words enraged Jian Daozi even more. He was so angry that his face turned pale, and the sword-based Taoist rhyme on his body continued to rise. "Chu Kuangren, you shall pay for your arrogance." Surging Taoist rhymes flowed within the 2 swords, and with the injection of spiritual power, they transformed into a monstrous sword shadow that slashed out. Chu Kuangren did not move from his spot. With a horizontal slash, the heaven-slaying sword-drawing technique instantly shattered the sword shadow. "You have 2 more sword attacks to please me." Chu Kuangren stood with his hands behind his back, the Descendant Self-Sword hovering beside him. The surrounding sky prides could not help but shudder at that sight. It was too terrifying. With 2 Emperor weapons in his hands, Jian Daozi's combat strength was unparalleled. Even so, he could not hurt Chu Kuangren at all. Not only that, but it was obvious that Chu Kuangren was not using his full strength. It was as if he was just toying with Jian Daozi. Just as he had said, all of this was just a game for him. Earth Sword, Wind Sword, Fire Sword, and Water Sword. 4 divine formations, 1 sword slashed the heavens. With a long roar, Jian Daozi channeled the spiritual power around his body. At the same time, he unleashed his 4 divine sword Dao to its maximum. A 4-colored sword shadow suddenly shot into the sky. It was Jian Daozi's 4 divine sword Dao. "Oh, your Dao has reached the peak of full mastery and is close to complete. It seems that the Azure Mystic Sword Emperor's inheritance has been very helpful to you," Chu Kuangren said. At that moment, the 4-colored sword shadow had already slashed down. Raging winds swept, flames burned, water surged, and the ground trembled. The 4 divine sword Dao, reinforced by the Emperor weapons, blasted towards Chu Kuangren. Break! The Descendant Self-Sword landed in Chu Kuangren's hand. With a yell, a sword chi shot out. The sword chi contained Chu Kuangren's spiritual power that was almost at the peak of the Boundary Emperor realm. Its terrifying power was self-evident. Accompanied by a shocking explosion, the 4 divine sword shadows suddenly exploded. Jian Daozi was blasted back nearly 100 meters. Jian Daozi looked at Chu Kuangren. He was initially full of confidence, but now he felt a deep sense of helplessness. "You still have 1 last chance," Chu Kuangren said. "Chu Kuangren, you forced my hand." Jian Daozi took a deep breath, and a determined look appeared in his eyes. With a terrifying glint in his eyes, he took out a finger bone. It was an emperor's finger bone. He crushed the finger bone, and an extremely majestic spiritual power instantly surged into his body, causing his aura to rise. The emperor's finger bone was brewing the power of an emperor. Jian Daozi had only refined the power of the Azure Mystic Sword Emperor's 4 finger bones, and he had already risen to his current cultivation level. Now he took out a finger bone not to refine it, but to temporarily increase his spiritual power. Although it was only temporary, it was still a powerful killing move. Slash! Jian Daozi increased his strength once again. He activated the 4 divine sword Dao, and an even more terrifying sword shadow erupted. However, he immediately turned around and fled. He did not even care if that sword attack could hurt Chu Kuangren. He knew that he was no match for Chu Kuangren even if he used the finger bone. Forcefully channeling the power of an emperor's finger bone without refining it was already the limit of his physical body. "You're trying to escape again. Too bad you won't get the chance this time," Chu Kuangren said. He was tired of playing this game with Jian Daozi. With a lift of his arm, a surge of the 4 divine power similar to Jian Daozi's erupted. However, this surge of 4 divine power was much stronger than Jian Daozi's. They were not on the same level at all. The 4 divine sword primal power. That's the 4 divine sword primal power. Jian Daozi was shocked when he sensed the aura behind him. The four divine sword primal power was supposed to belong to him. The four divine sword primal power intertwined in the void and condensed into a 1,000-meter-long four-colored sword shadow. It contained a surge of four divine power that could shatter the heavens and earth, and it slashed out. It was the supreme divine ability, the four divine primordial sword. Chapter 592. The Four Guardians' Primordial Divine Sword was unleashed. The sword shadow that Jian Daozi had unleashed was nothing in the face of this divine ability. The moment the two attacks collided, the sword shadow shattered. The Four Guardians' Primordial Divine Sword targeted Jian Daozi. The power of the Four Guardians intertwined in the void and formed a Four Guardians cage that sealed off the heavens and earth. No! Jian Daozi roared with fear in his eyes. No matter how much he channeled his spiritual power or tried to defend himself, he could not stop the tremendous force. The Four Guardians' Primordial Divine Sword had blasted Jian Daozi into pieces. However, the sword chi did not stop there. It blasted into the clouds and exploded. The terrifying power of the Four Guardians swept across thousands of miles of the clouds in a dazzling display of colors. Daozi! The swordsman tribe cultivators in the crowd could not help but stare at Chu Kuangren in anger and fear. The other forbidden sky prides were even more fearful. This person's combat strength is too terrifying. Among all the sky prides, I think only Qin Tianqian, who is known as the reincarnation of a great emperor, stands a chance against him. A clang was heard. Two emperor weapons fell and stabbed into the ground. They were the Gold Emperor Divine Sword, the Emerald Divine Sword that Jian Daozi dropped after his death. The surrounding sky prides stared at the emperor weapons with burning eyes. After all, those were emperor weapons. Even among the forbidden sky prides, there were only a few who owned emperor weapons. However, despite their burning eyes, no one dared to have any malicious intent. With Chu Kuangren around, no one dared to act rashly. With a thought, the two emperor weapons automatically floated before Chu Kuangren. He merely glanced at them before he tossed them to Murong Xian and Nangong Huang. They're yours now. Refine them well. Among the four of them, only Nangong Huang and Murong Xian were comfortable with swords. That was why Chu Kuangren gave them the emperor weapons. As for him, one or two emperor weapons were no longer of much use to him. Gulp! The crowd could not help but gulp when they saw Chu Kuangren casually giving away the emperor weapons. That was an emperor weapon. He gave it away just like that? Just how rich is Chu Kuangren? As for Nangong Huang, who had obtained the emperor weapon, Murong Xian was also a little excited. Thank you, sect leader. They understood Chu Kuangren's personality very well. Since he had already said that he would give it to them, then he would give it to them. Hence they did not reject him. Who should I look for next? Chu Kuangren then kept Jian Daozi's yin and yang ring. He then swept his gaze across the remaining sky prides as if he was choosing his next prey. Anyone who was stared at by him couldn't help but retreat, and they didn't dare meet his gaze. All of them lowered their heads as they were deeply afraid of being stared at. For a moment, wherever he looked, all of them bowed their heads and retreated. One man, one sword, pressured the elites of the world to the point where they couldn't even lift their heads. At this moment, the walls of the myriad treasures' ancient cave began to tremble, and waves of surging spiritual energy rippled out. This commotion, the treasures of the treasure ancient cave are about to appear. The opportunity is coming. The crowd of prodigies was attracted by the ancient cave. Chu Kuangren's attention was also momentarily attracted. The ancient cavern has opened. Let's take a look inside and see what's so special about it. Chu Kuangren said indifferently. Then streaks of light suddenly flew out from the ancient cave. The flowing light actually carried numerous treasures within it. They were either supreme elixirs, weapons, or rare ores. The sight of hundreds and thousands of ancient caverns spewing out treasures at the same time was too spectacular. Chu Kuangren could not help but be slightly surprised when he saw it. This ancient cave of treasures really lives up to its name of having many treasures. Chu Kuangren scanned the area with his spiritual thought. Even the lowest grade of the treasures that were spewing out from the ancient caverns were top-tier sage-grade treasures. Most of them were boundary emperors, and there were quite a few emperor-grade treasures as well. That's the Prime Dragon Supreme Elixir. By the heavens, there's even a star herb. Quick, hurry up. One by one, the sky prides quickly made their moves to fight for the treasures. There were hundreds and thousands of these ancient caverns, and the treasures that were spewing out were all different. Many of the sky prides locked onto their own targets and stepped forward to fight for the treasures. Even the forbidden sky prides were no exception. For example, the darkness bachelor sage, Feng Mo, had his eyes on a black crystal that contained an extremely powerful darkness-based Taoist rhyme, which would be very beneficial to him. However, just as everyone was about to snatch the treasures, a sudden spatial fluctuation appeared. The treasures that were wrapped in the streaks of light disappeared one by one. What's going on? Feng Mo looked at the empty void in front of him and could not help but be shocked. The other sky prides looked at each other in confusion. What's going on? What's going on? Where are the treasures? Where did they go? Look, the treasures are right there. At that moment, someone suddenly exclaimed. The treasures that were spewing out from the ancient cave of treasures were all floating in front of Chu Kuangren. Chu Kuangren, he's the one who did this. How did he do it? Is he trying to monopolize all of these treasures? Everyone looked at Chu Kuangren in bewilderment. Chu Kuangren, on the other hand, had a faint smile on his face as he looked at the treasures. I want all of these treasures. Chu Kuangren had used his mind power and spatial conveyor skill to transfer all of these treasures to him. Everyone was dumbfounded when they heard him. This was especially true for the cultivators who had explored the Thousand Wonders cave before. The last time, Chu Kuangren had taken all the treasures from the earth vein in the Thousand Wonders cave. This time he wanted to do the same thing and monopolize the ancient cave of treasures. How could there be such an arrogant and domineering person in this world? Chu Kuangren, aren't you afraid of being condemned by the people of this world by doing this? Tu Heng said loudly. The others were also enraged. They had missed out on the earth vein essence last time. This time, Chu Kuangren wanted to take the opportunity of fortune from the ancient cave of treasures as well. How could they tolerate that? Condemned by the people of this world? Had the people of this world only remember that the winner takes all. If you're not happy about it, come and take it. Chu Kuangren hooked his finger at the crowd. Seeing him like that, the crowd was so angry that they gritted their teeth, but there was nothing they could do. Chu Kuangren was too powerful. He was so powerful that they could not resist, so powerful that they felt despair. Brother Chu, you're too arrogant. But I like it. Beside him, Red Moon gulped. However, when he saw the helpless looks on the Sky Pride's faces, he was filled with admiration. Chu Kuangren was probably the only person who could make the Sky Prides clench their teeth in hatred but could not do anything about it. Brother Chu, don't you think it's a little inappropriate for you to do this? Bai Tianxing, the Radiant Sex Bachelor Sage, said. Chu Kuangren glanced at him and said, treasures belong to those who are capable. What's inappropriate about that? Besides, who are you? I'm the Radiant Sex Bachelor Sage, a fellow disciple of the Maiden Sage. Oh. Chu Kuangren activated his Eye of Revelation and scanned Bai Tianxing before looking at Lan Yu. He noticed that Lan Yu now had the title of Radiant Sex Maiden Sage. However, when he was looking into her information, he noticed something strange and frowned. However, he temporarily suppressed that strange feeling and did not study it immediately. At that moment, the ancient cave of treasures moved again. The second round of treasures erupted. Chapter 593. The ancient cave of treasures released a second round of treasures, and a large number of treasures gushed out one after another. It was still a spectacular sight. The surrounding Sky Prides gritted their teeth and dashed forward at an even faster speed. They had to be quick or else they would not get their turn. However, no matter how fast they were, they could not match Chu Kuangren's spatial conveyor skill. A burst of invisible spatial fluctuations appeared, and the treasures immediately disappeared from where they stood. Just like before, they all went in front of Chu Kuangren. This caused the cultivators to explode on the spot. *CK me? How are we supposed to compete now? His ability is too overpowered. We can't compete with him at all. Everyone looked at Chu Kuangren with their eyes wide open. They could not wait to skin him alive. Chu Kuangren's method of robbing others of their wealth was too hateful. However, he did not seem to notice it at all. He stared at the treasures in front of him and kept them into his yin and yang ring. At that moment, a surge of spiritual power suddenly came from afar. The surge was very strong and it was mixed with a domineering intent. It was as if an emperor had arrived. Chu Kuangren's interest was piqued. He looked at the mountains in the distance and squinted his eyes. This aura, could it be him? Bai Hongyu was bewildered as well. Is this aura his? But how did he suddenly become so strong? Rumble. The ground shook and waves of surging spiritual power spread outwards, shaking everything within a 10,000-kilometer radius. Then, a golden ray of light suddenly shot into the sky from the mountains. It pierced through the clouds and dyed the sky gold. Ha ha ha, the heavenly honorable has descended and destroyed everything. His arrogant words echoed in the sky. Amidst the golden light, a domineering figure slowly walked out. That person was wearing a golden robe, and there was a mysterious Taoist rhyme circulating around him. Every move he made was filled with unparalleled dominance. It was as if a heavenly honorable had descended upon the world. Chu Kuangren had a playful look on his face when he saw that person. Bai Hongyu was in disbelief when she saw that person. It's really him, Xiao Jingchen. I can't believe his transformation. Xiao Jingchen was a nine-heaven sky pride. He was also the owner of the heavenly golden imperial body. Logically speaking, this heavenly golden imperial body was stronger than the exquisite nine orifices sword heart. Xiao Jingchen's aptitude was so high that he was no weaker than any of the forbidden sky prides. However, he had always been suppressed by the taboo. But now, after entering the barren forbidden land, he had obtained the inheritance of a great emperor who also possessed the heavenly golden imperial body. His cultivation level had greatly increased, and he could fully unleash the power of the heavenly golden imperial body. It was not an exaggeration to say that he had reached the heavens in a single bound. What a strong aura. This is the heavenly yellow imperial physique. I didn't expect this person to improve so much. How surprising. Isn't this the Bai family's son-in-law? It is said that although his talent is not bad, he has always been inferior to Bai Hongyu. However, from the looks of his aura, he is much stronger than Bai Hongyu. The barren forbidden land is indeed a land of great opportunities. Xiao Jingchen, who was originally just a top-notch sky pride, has actually soared to the sky. Everyone was discussing and looking at Xiao Jingchen in amazement. On top of being shocked, Bai Hongyu also felt an indescribable sense of defeat. It was bad enough that she had lost to Chu Kuangren, but now even a son-in-law from her family was trying to climb above her. This feeling was just too depressing. After exiting his closed-door meditation, Xiao Jingchen scanned the surroundings and soon locked onto the ancient cave of treasures. Oh, treasures and Sky Pride's aura. Just nice. I was just looking for someone to test out my gains from this closed-door meditation. He took a step forward and instantly traversed thousands of miles. In just a few steps, he arrived above the ancient cave of treasures. He scanned the crowd with disdain. Then he immediately locked onto Chu Kuangren. It could not be helped. Chu Kuangren was too eye-catching now. With so many treasures surrounding him, anyone would notice him at first glance. Not to mention that Xiao Jingchen had a grudge against Chu Kuangren. Back in the Firmament Star, I was no match for you. That was why I allowed you to destroy the Heavenly Golden Palace. Now I shall avenge them. Chu Kuangren, are you ready? Xiao Jingchen said indifferently. The aura on his body was so majestic that it caught everyone's attention. At the same time, their eyes lit up. Xiao Jingchen seemed to be stronger than Jian Daozi. If he were to make a move, he might be able to stop Chu Kuangren. Many people think that they can fight against me after obtaining the opportunity of fortune. Unfortunately, the grass on their graves is already 3 feet tall. Chu Kuangren said indifferently. Try me then. Without another word, Xiao Jingchen immediately attacked. Heavenly Honorable Palm. His surging spiritual power transformed into a giant golden hand that covered the sky. Along with a spiritual power storm, it grabbed at Chu Kuangren. Let me experience the power of the Heavenly Honorable Physique. Chu Kuangren said. With a slash of his sword, a purple sword ray exploded and shattered the giant golden hand. The two surges of energy caused a storm to spread. However, Xiao Jingchen remained calm. He raised his hand and activated another powerful technique. Heavenly Honorable Finger. With a point of his finger, the heavenly golden spiritual power surged and turned into a giant finger that pierced through the void towards Chu Kuangren. Not far away, a few sky prides from the Forbidden Zone looked at Chu Kuangren and Xiao Jingchen's intense battle. They looked at each other with an inexplicable expression. Among them, Feng Emo was the first to speak. Guys, if we don't take care of this person, we won't be able to get our hands on the treasures here with him around. I plan to attack him. What about the rest of you? If that's the case, then let's do it. Tu Hung from the demon tribe said coldly. Chu Kuangren's strength was so strong that it was above all of them. However, the treasures were too tempting. They could not just watch as Chu Kuangren took all the good stuff away. They did not want to be suppressed by him all the time. Now that Xiao Jingchen had joined the fray, they saw a glimmer of hope in suppressing Chu Kuangren. I also want to see how many trump cards he has yet to reveal. Niu Dali from the demonic ox bloodline seemed excited. He did not harbor much hostility towards Chu Kuangren. However, he just wanted to fight him. Of course, it would be better if he could stop Chu Kuangren's momentum. Just as well. The ferocious tribesmen have a score to settle with this person too. Xiao Wuxia from the ferocious tribesmen said. As soon as he spoke, everyone felt more confident. Xiao Wuxia from the ferocious tribesmen was definitely an extremely powerful Forbidden Zone Sky Pride. He was even more powerful than Jian Daozi. Let's do it then. Feng Mo said loudly. His figure turned into a stream of black light, and the despair blade in his hand radiated a black light. A pitch-black blade ray that contained a terrifying dark energy slashed towards Chu Kuangren from behind. Don't even think about it. Lan Yu snorted and attacked as well. Her white spear pierced through the void and shattered the blade ray. Get out of my way. Feng Mo roared and swung his despair blade again. Tu Heng followed up with a punch as well. The two Forbidden Zone Sky Prides joined forces and instantly forced Lan Yu to retreat hundreds of meters. Lan Yu, you guys go and fight for the treasures first. Let me handle these few. At that moment, Chu Kuangren's voice rang in Lan Yu's ears. She pondered for a while before she nodded. All right. Chu Kuangren stood in the air and looked at them. How many Forbidden Zone Sky Prides do you guys think will fall today? Chapter 594. How many Forbidden Cultivators do you think will fall today? Chu Kuangren said calmly, his voice as cold as ice. A cold gust of wind blew between the heavens and the earth. Xiao Jingchen took a step forward and unleashed his heavenly golden imperial physique's domineering aura towards Chu Kuangren. You're the only one who will fall today. As soon as he said that, the heavenly golden spiritual power gushed out from his body again and formed into a gigantic human figure in the void. It was the heavenly golden imperial physique's Taoist transformation, the divine Lord Avatar. Chu Kuangren, you should know that being too rigid is easy to break. You're too presumptuous. Tu Heng leaped into the air. In the sky, demonic chi gathered and formed into a gigantic purple eye. A terrifying demonic light was brewing within it. Eye of Oblivion. As he yelled, the demonic light poured out like a purple torrent towards Chu Kuangren. O God of Darkness. Feng Mo, the bachelor sage of darkness, had also made his move. He let out a low chant with a sincere look on his face. Then the aura on his body increased significantly. That was the Divine Darkness Religion and Divine Radiant Religion's unique faith cultivation technique, which allowed one to borrow power from the gods. Dark Void Destruction. After Feng Mo finished his prayer, his strength increased, and he unleashed a blade ray of extreme darkness towards Chu Kuangren. What can a god do to me? Chu Kuangren yelled. Four-colored light circulated as the power of the four mystical beasts erupted once again. Divine Ability, Primordial Sword of Four Mystical Beasts. Under Chu Kuangren's control, the sword of four mystical beasts slashed across the sky, shattering the demonic light and the blade ray. The sword chi's residual force caused Feng Mo and Tu Heng to spit out blood and retreat hundreds of meters. So powerful. Tu Heng and Feng Mo's expressions changed slightly. They had seen Jian Daozi and Chu Kuangren fight before, but that was just a bystander. Only when they faced Chu Kuangren personally did they realize how terrifying Chu Kuangren's combat strength was. Wait, where is he? Just when Xiao Jingchen, Xiao Wuxia and Yo Dali were about to replace Tu Heng and Feng Mo in attacking Chu Kuangren, they realized that he had disappeared. They quickly used their spiritual thoughts to search for Chu Kuangren. Oh no. Everyone's expression changed. This was especially true for Tu Heng. He suddenly felt a chill run down his spine. The fear that seemed to have materialized turned into a chill that instantly invaded his entire body. He subconsciously turned around and struck out with his palm. Unbeknownst to him, Chu Kuangren was already behind him. Facing the incoming palm attack, Chu Kuangren lifted his hand and slashed out with his sword. Sword light shot out, shattering the palm energy and devil chi. Then it slashed across Tu Heng's body. The armor on Tu Heng's body was like paper, unable to withstand the sharpness of the Kunwu sword. Amidst the splattering of blood, Tu Heng was torn apart by the sword. A taboo had fallen. The first one. Chu Kuangren's indifferent voice rang out. Immediately after, his figure disappeared from where he was like a ghost. In the next instant, he appeared beside the Holy Son of Darkness, Feng Mo, the second. The cold voice sounded like the voice of the Grim Reaper, accompanied by the dazzling sword light. Saint Son of Darkness Feng Mo only felt a chill on his neck. Then he felt the world spinning around him and he actually saw a headless corpse. That was his corpse. His head was cut off by a sword. How could this be? Feng Mo was horrified. Before his decapitated head could even finish a sentence, all signs of life had disappeared. Another taboo had fallen. Quick, let's seal the space together. Wuxia roared as a black avatar formed behind him. It was the avatar of the infallible tormented physique. The divine ferocious avatar roared with battle intent as it resonated with the heavenly golden imperial avatar. The two avatars clashed violently in the void, causing the surrounding void to tremble violently, interfering with Chu Kuangren's spatial conveyor technique. Beside them, Niu Dali let out a roar and transformed into his true form, a black demonic bull. With an angry roar, the demonic bull charged towards Chu Kuangren. Scram! Chu Kuangren yelled as the spiritual power within his body surged. A black fist that was burning with monstrous flames of anger was unleashed. It was the Emperor technique, Raging God's Fist. The demonic bull was sent flying by the Emperor technique. An ancient wild beast could not even withstand a single punch from Chu Kuangren. Heavenly Golden Imperial Physique. At that moment, Xiao Jingchen, who had pushed the Heavenly Golden Imperial Physique to its limit, let out a roar and grabbed at Chu Kuangren. Beside him, Wuxia was not to be outdone either. The divine ferocious avatar surged with ferocious chi and formed a giant black axe in its hand. With a swing of the axe, the void cracked like a mirror. Avatar Ha. I also know how to do this. Chu Kuangren said calmly as an incredibly dense divine ferocious Taoist rhyme circulated in the void, forming another divine ferocious avatar just like Wuxia. However, Chu Kuangren's avatar was more solid. With just a roar, the mountains and rivers within thousands of miles were shaken. The divine ferocious avatar threw out a punch that collided with the heavenly golden imperial palm while its other hand grabbed the giant axe. When the three avatars collided, the entire ancient cave of treasures stone tablet trembled as treasures were spat out one after another. The other sky prides took this opportunity to fight for the treasures while Lan Yu led Nangong Huang and the others to join in. The Taoist is dead, but we can't go back empty-handed. We must bring something back with us. One of the sky prides from the swordsman tribe said as he dashed forward. However, he was soon sent flying by Lan Yu's palm. The treasures that he wanted were also taken away by Lan Yu. *Emenet. *Emenet. That sky pride from the swordsman tribe was hopping mad, but there was nothing he could do. Then he saw the mystic sword guard. She was also fighting for the treasures. She was very strong, and with her fallen darkness physique activated, no one below the forbidden realm could rival her. That traitor. The sky pride from the swordsman tribe was filled with hatred, but there was nothing he could do. Not far away, the Dark God Society cultivators who were still immersed in the sadness of the bachelor sage's death noticed the mystic sword guard as well. This aura, it's the fallen darkness physique. The fallen darkness physique that we've been searching for so many years appeared right after the bachelor sage's death. Could this be fate? The Dark God Society cultivators looked at each other. Meanwhile, Chu Kuangren's battle with Sha Unpardonable and Xiao Jingchen was nearing its end. The three divine Daos were like three giants. The shockwaves from their battle spread out for tens of thousands of miles, causing the ground to crack and the void to explode. The shockwaves from their fists were like natural disasters that destroyed everything around them. Transcendent coalescence, exquisite nine orifices sword heart. At that moment, Chu Kuangren's other two Taoist physiques also erupted at the same time. The transcendent coalescence's power and the exquisite nine orifices sword heart sword chi were unleashed. The two surges of energy were channeled into the divine ferocious avatar, causing the originally pure black avatar to have a few different colors. A Taoist physique fusion technique. Sha Unpardonable and Xiao Jingchen's eyes locked onto each other. Come, have a taste of my avatar's power. Chu Kuangren said calmly. The divine ferocious avatar unleashed another punch. With the three Taoist physiques, the power of this punch was almost unparalleled. With a loud bang, Sha Unpardonable's divine ferocious avatar trembled violently. A large amount of ferocious chi flowed out of it as if it was about to dissipate. What a terrifying power. Xiao Jingchen was extremely fearful as he took out a long spear. It was an emperor weapon. With the emperor weapon's support, the divine ferocious avatar's power increased once again. Even so, it was still weaker than Chu Kuangren's divine ferocious avatar that was formed from the fusion of the three Taoist physiques. It was constantly being beaten back. Chapter 595. With the help of the Emperor weapon, Xiao Jingchen's avatar became even more powerful. Every move it made was as if a heavenly venerable had descended and suppressed the heavens. The heavenly golden imperial physique is not bad, but you're too weak, Chu Kuangren said coldly. With a step forward, the divine ferocious avatar that was formed from the fusion of the three supreme Taoist physiques unleashed a punch and once again forced the heavenly venerable avatar to retreat. This time, the heavenly venerable avatar had already started to crack. At the side, Sha Unpardonable saw that the situation was not good and did not dare to stay any longer. He retracted his avatar and fled in a flash. I can't believe there's such a terrifying sky pride from the outside world. How terrifying. Chu Kuangren really lives up to his name. Sha Unpardonable's heart was still filled with shock. When he fled, he turned around to look at Chu Kuangren. Chu Kuangren's invincible figure seemed to have been deeply imprinted in his mind. However, he suddenly realized that Chu Kuangren was also looking at him coldly as if he was looking at a dead man. Fighting and leaving as you please? You don't get away with it so easily, Chu Kuangren said indifferently. A four-colored ray of light flowed in his hand, and a monstrous sword shadow that contained the power of the four divine beasts slashed out. Not good. Sha Unpardonable's expression changed drastically. That sword shadow came at him ferociously, and the surging spiritual power it contained made Sha Unpardonable feel a chill run down his spine. Army of ferocious chi. Sha Unpardonable roared and blocked it with all his might. However, his ferocious chi could not withstand that attack at all. His ferocious chi was torn apart, and the sword shadow landed on his body. Thousands of sword chi exploded and wreaked havoc, almost blowing his entire body into pieces. Just one attack and Sha Unpardonable was on the brink of death. At that moment, a green light suddenly flowed in his body, and a huge surge of vitality erupted. It quickly healed his injuries and pulled him back from the brink of death. Sha Unpardonable, who was lucky enough to survive, did not dare to stay any longer. He channeled all his spiritual power and escaped. Chu Kuangren was slightly surprised. Oh, a life-saving treasure. He did not care much about it. After all, he had already analyzed his opponent's identity. He could take his time to deal with him later. Now, I'll deal with you first. Chu Kuangren looked at Xiao Jingqian. The heavenly ferocious Dharma power behind him threw another 2 or 3 punches and destroyed Xiao Jingqian's heavenly venerate Dharma power. How could this be? Xiao Jingqian's face was filled with disbelief. I have the inheritance of Great Emperor Black Jade. My celestial master body should be able to sweep away everything. Why is it like this? This shouldn't be, it shouldn't be. Xiao Jingqian roared. The heavenly golden imperial physique was the second most powerful physique in the world, and its combat strength was so terrifying that it far surpassed those in the same realm. How could Chu Kuangren defeat it so easily? It did not make sense at all. Like I said, you're too weak, Chu Kuangren said indifferently. The divine ferocious avatar behind him grabbed Xiao Jingqian. Under the other party's terrified gaze, he exerted strength in his 5 fingers, and the power of the heavenly ferocious Dharma erupted. With a crack, the other party's bones and muscles were completely crushed, and he exploded into a cloud of blood mist. The Empyrean body had fallen. After that, Chu Kuangren looked down at the sky prides who were still fighting for the various treasures below him, and an incredibly domineering aura suddenly erupted. All the sky prides were instantly shocked. They felt as if their bodies were being crushed by 100,000 mountains, and they could not move at all. What a terrifying aura. Even the Empyrean body was destroyed by him. Is this guy really invincible? Is there anyone else who can stop him? I guess even Qin Tianxian might not be able to defeat this guy. How can there be such a monster in this world? Everyone looked at Chu Kuangren with fear and horror in their eyes. The forbidden sky prides were already unreachable existences in their eyes, yet they had fallen one after another in Chu Kuangren's hands. Chu Kuangren's combat strength was just too terrifying. I'll say it again. All the treasures in this ancient cave of treasures are mine. Anyone who doesn't leave now shall die. Chu Kuangren's voice echoed clearly in everyone's ears. No one dared to refute him. Those who did not want to die could only leave reluctantly. Even the sky prides from the ancient orthodoxies were no exception. Soon, the entire ancient cave of treasures became extremely deserted. Chu Kuangren then led Lan Yu and the others to search for treasures. The ancient cave of treasures had been erupting for 4 times, and thousands of treasures had been released. Many of them were emperor-grade treasures. The opportunity of fortune was beyond imagination. And all of it now belonged to Chu Kuangren. Nangong Huang, Murong Xian, and the others could not contain their excitement. Oh my god, Brother Chu is too terrifying. Red Moon gulped. She and Ling Ningyu were friends with Chu Kuangren, so they had picked up quite a few treasures. Although they could not compare to Chu Kuangren, they had still earned a lot. As for the Divine Radiant Church, Chu Kuangren did not chase them away for Lan Yu's sake, so they had also obtained some treasures. However, their eyes were still burning when they looked at Chu Kuangren. Compared to Chu Kuangren, the treasures that they had obtained were far inferior. At most, it was just a fraction of what they had obtained. "Oh, Lady Sage, since you're close to Brother Chu, can you ask him to give us some of the ancient caves?" Third Elder stepped forward and said. Lan Yu replied indifferently, "I have no right to do that. These are all masters. He can give them to whoever he wants." "Lady Sage, this opportunity of fortune is too great. For the sake of the Divine Radiant Church, can't you go and fight for it?" Third Elder did not want to give up so easily. Master has his own plans. Hearing Lan Yu calling him master, Third Elder's expression turned sour, but he still suppressed his anger. A cold glint flashed across his eyes. An outsider would always be an outsider. They could not be fed. It seemed like the plan had to be brought forward. Third Elder glanced at Bachelor Sage Bai Tianxing, who was looking back at him with a similarly sour expression. It was obvious that he had been provoked by Chu Kuangren that day. The treasures that the ancient cave of treasures gave out decreased, and after a few hours there was no more activity. The opportunity of fortune had come to an end. While Chu Kuangren was sorting out his loot, he suddenly saw a colorful token amidst the dazzling array of treasures. That token contained a mysterious Taoist rhyme. "This is the Heavenly Pardon Order." Red Moon could not help but be surprised. "Oh, so this is the Heavenly Pardon Order." Chu Kuangren played with the token in his hand. Rumor had it that the emperors were restricted by the rules of the Emperor's Path. They were trapped in the ancestors' land and could not do as they pleased. The Heavenly Pardon Order was a treasure that was produced in the barren forbidden area. This token could remove the restrictions of the Emperor's Path, freeing the emperors from their shackles. In other words, this item was useless to Chu Kuangren, but it was a dream item for the emperors. "Brother Chu, I'm willing to give you all the treasures that I've fought for just now in exchange for this Heavenly Pardon Order. Can you give it to me?" Red Moon said. With this Heavenly Pardon Order, the Seven Emotions sect would have another emperor without any restrictions. This was too important for the Seven Emotions sect. "This Heavenly Pardon Order is useless to me, so it's fine to give it to the Seven Emotions sect." Chu Kuangren nodded. Even if he became an emperor, he would not be restricted. The restrictions of the Emperor's Path were only effective on emperors who were above 9,000 years old. As for Chu Kuangren, 9 years was a long time for him, let alone 9,000 years. With his talents and resources, if he still could not become an emperor after so long, he would probably kill himself. Chapter 596. The opportunities of fortune in the ancient cave of treasures had ended. Lan Yu, Nangong Huang, Chu Kuangren, and a few others from the Black Heaven sect found a place to sit and chat. As for the others, they went to other places to see if there were any opportunities of fortune that they had missed. "Lan Yu, how did you become the Radiant Sect's maiden sage?" Chu Kuangren asked curiously. Lan Yu said, "After entering the Emperor's Road, I happened to land in the Radiant Sect's territory and met the current leader. He could tell that I have a rare holy radiant physique, so he brought me back to the Radiant Sect, taught me the Divine Radiant Flame technique, and appointed me as the Radiant Sect's maiden sage." "That's it?" Chu Kuangren frowned. How could the Radiant Sect allow an outsider Sky Pride to become their maiden sage so easily? Was it not a joke? There was indeed something fishy about the process, but I had just arrived here and was unfamiliar with the place. I could only rely on the Radiant Sect's power to quickly grasp the situation, Lan Yu said. "When you were cultivating the Divine Radiant Flame technique, did the Radiant Sect's leader tell you about the Flame Relayer?" Chu Kuangren asked again. "Flame Relayer? No, he didn't." Lan Yu shook her head. "Oh, that's interesting." Chu Kuangren let out a chuckle, but his eyes were filled with an incomparably cold intent. Flame Relayer was a piece of information that Chu Kuangren obtained when he used the Eye of Revelation to observe Lan Yu. This information was related to the Divine Radiant Flame technique that Lan Yu cultivated. Moreover, it was not a good piece of information. Moreover, the Divine Radiant Flame technique that Lan Yu cultivated was incomplete. However, when he had observed the All-Seeing Saint's movements during the day, the All-Seeing Saint's cultivation technique was complete. This was very thought-provoking. "Oh, Radiant Sect, you and I have no grudges, but since you've suddenly plotted against Lan Yu, don't blame me for being merciless," Chu Kuangren muttered. Just as the Black Heaven Sect's people were catching up, Jian Changfeng suddenly sent a distress message. Chu Kuangren could not help but be surprised. What's wrong with this guy now? His figure flashed and disappeared on the spot. At that moment, the Mystic Sword Guard and Jian Changfeng were being chased by someone. The people chasing them were none other than the sword race's geniuses who were still training in the desolate Forbidden Land. This sword race elite laid down a sword array and surrounded the Charmed Sword Guards and Jian Changfeng. Even though the Charmed Sword Guards were strong, they were unable to break free in a short period of time. In fact, they were even being suppressed. As for Jian Changfeng, there was no need to mention him. The current him was just a figurine without the slightest bit of battle power. Mystic Sword Guard, how dare you betray the Sword Clan? You deserve to die. One of the geniuses of the sword race snorted coldly and slashed out with his sword. Sword chi intersected in the void and turned into a sword net. There was a loud explosion. The Mei Sword Guard was forced back several steps, and his clothes were torn apart by the sword chi, revealing a large patch of his snow-white skin. When one of the geniuses of the sword race saw this, he could not help but let out a look of greed as he gulped down his saliva. When the Mystic Sword Guard sensed the other party's gaze, a look of disgust appeared on his face. Jian Yunyang, you'd better let me leave. Otherwise I guarantee that you will die a horrible death. Mystic Sword Guard, we'll talk after you break our sword formation. Jian Yunyang sneered. His sword formation was extremely powerful. If these geniuses of the sword race fought one-on-one, they would not be a match for the Mystic Sword Guard. But by relying on this sword formation, they were able to fight evenly with the other party. In fact, they might even be stronger. Damn it. The Mystic Sword Guard was forced back by the sword chi and suffered a few more injuries. Mystic Sword Guard, I really don't understand. The sword race has always treated you well. Why did you betray the sword race? We've already come to this. What else is there to say? The Mystic Sword Guard sneered. Then don't blame us. Kill. Jian Yunyang snorted coldly and activated the strongest killer move of the sword formation. Countless sword chi intersected in the void and turned into a huge sword shadow that slashed towards the Mystic Sword Guard. The Mystic Sword Guard could not block this sword shadow at all. But just as the sword shadow was about to land on the Mystic Sword Guard, a sword chi suddenly broke through the void and shattered the sword shadow. The marvelous sword formation was broken with a single sound. These people were all sent flying by the sword chi. This power, could it be? Jian Yunyang's pupils shrunk as he thought of something. Not daring to hesitate, he turned around and fled. However, an invisible mind power suddenly shrouded the entire place, and the sword race sky prides were all pressed to the ground, unable to move. In the void, a white-robed figure walked out. That person did not even look at the sword race sky prides. It was as if they were nothing to him. Master. The Mystic Sword Guard half knelt on the ground when he saw that person. The other sky prides of the sword race were instantly dumbfounded. The sword race sky prides had acknowledged Chu Kuangren as their master. Was there anything more ridiculous than that? Chu Kuangren did not say anything and unleashed the spring breeze healing technique. The Mystic Sword Guard's injuries instantly healed. Tell me what happened? When Jian Changfeng and I were searching for opportunities of fortune, we suddenly encountered these sword race sky prides. They've already found out about my betrayal, so they're hunting me down. I see. Chu Kuangren nodded slightly. Then he looked at Jian Changfeng. Since we've met here, I might as well help you with your physical body. Jian Changfeng was stunned at first, then he became extremely excited. Master, are you saying that you're going to help me recover my physical body? Which one of these people do you fancy? Choose one. Chu Kuangren pointed at the sky prides of the sword race who were immobilized by his mind power and said. Jian Changfeng then walked to Jian Yunyang. I'll choose him. Jian Yunyang was still puzzled. He had no idea what Chu Kuangren and Jian Changfeng were up to. However, he had a bad feeling about this. After Jian Daozi, the Mystic Sword Guard, and myself, Jian Yunyang is now the top sky pride of the sword race. If he returns to the sword race this time, he'll definitely become a core disciple. Jian Changfeng said. No wonder you've chosen him. Chu Kuangren raised his hand and unleashed the spring breeze healing technique, which healed Jian Yunyang's injuries until they were completely healed. That made Jian Yunyang even more confused. You injured me and now you're healing me? What's the meaning of this? At that moment, a black chain with a barb appeared in Chu Kuangren's hand. It emanated a sinister aura. It was the Soul Retriever. Go. Chu Kuangren unleashed the Soul Retriever. Accompanied by a shrill scream, Jian Yunyang's soul was forcibly dragged out of his physical body, and he could not move a single inch in the void. The sky prides of the sword race felt their scalps go numb and their hearts palpitated. Even Jian Changfeng could not help but shiver. However, he then excitedly jumped into Jian Yunyang's physical body. That was the perfect condition for his soul to be swapped. It was a soulless body that was not damaged at all. Black smoke emitted from Jian Changfeng's figurine and entered Jian Yunyang's eyes, ears, mouth and nose. After a while, Jian Yunyang opened his eyes, got up, and stretched his body before kneeling on the ground. "Thank you, Master, for giving me a new lease of life." At that moment he was Jian Changfeng. "When you return to the sword race, continue to monitor their movements for me." "Yes, I'll make good use of this identity." Jian Changfeng looked at Jian Yunyang's soul, who was beside him, and revealed a cold smile. "Devil, you must be a devil." Jian Yunyang looked at Chu Kuangren and screamed in horror. What else could he be other than a devil? Chapter 597. Demons? Thanks for the compliment. Chu Kuangren smiled. He gently tugged on the soul retriever, and an extremely cold energy that targeted souls exploded, instantly destroying Jian Yunyang's soul. "I beg you, please spare us." "Yes, as long as you let us go, we're willing to serve you like Jian Changfeng and serve you as our master." The sky prides of the swordsmen kept begging for their lives. However, Chu Kuangren remained calm and said, "I'm sorry, but the slave seal has a limited number of slots. It's not your turn yet." As he spoke, he raised his hand and unleashed a few surges of sword chi. In the blink of an eye, the sword chi killed the sky prides of the swordsmen. The slave seal was not without its limitations. The more slave seals were used, the more burden it would place on Chu Kuangren. Hence, he would not use this technique easily. Good steel should be used on the blade. Jian Changfeng and the Phantom Sword Sentinel were both peerless sky prides. One was sent to the swordsman, and the other was a supreme Taoist physique. Only people like them were of value to Chu Kuangren. "Master, should I return to the swordsman now?" "Up to you. You can continue to train in the barren forbidden area or go back. Whatever it is, you're not fit to stay by my side anymore." If others saw Jian Changfeng by Chu Kuangren's side, then the fact that he was one of his people would be exposed. "All right." Jian Changfeng nodded and disappeared on the spot. Behind him, the Phantom Sword Sentinel walked up and said, "Master, I have something to report to you." "Speak." "The Dark God Society has found me." "Tell me about it." Chu Kuangren's interest was piqued. "They seem to have their eyes on my fallen darkness physique and hope that I can leave with them and join the Dark God Society." "Interesting." Chu Kuangren was still thinking about how to deal with the Radiant Sect. The Dark God Society had their eyes on the other person beside him. "What do you have in mind?" "I'll listen to you, Master." "Don't listen to me all the time. You're not puppets. Tell me, what do you have in mind?" Chu Kuangren said. The slave seal only planted the Phantom Sword Sentinel's loyalty to Chu Kuangren. It did not control their minds. What he wanted were capable subordinates. He was not a puppet that only knew how to obey orders. The Darkness Church has a deep foundation. If you can grasp it, it should be useful to master. You want to join? I have that thought, but the final decision lies with the master. Deep down, the Mystic Sword Sentinel understood that what Chu Kuangren needed was not an ordinary follower or bodyguard. He would not be of much use if he were to follow Chu Kuangren around. Moreover, she was not willing to just be an ordinary follower or guard. She wanted Chu Kuangren to see her worth. She had the fallen darkness body, which was the most suitable Taoist body for darkness. If she joined the Thuli cult, she might be able to bring out her true value. Join the Thuli Society. This may be an opportunity for you. However, they will investigate your background and soon find out that you are loyal to me. I believe it won't be long before they come looking for me. This matter is not urgent. Let's talk about it when they come looking for me. Chu Kuangren said indifferently. Yes. After that, Chu Kuangren continued to explore the barren forbidden area with Lan Yu and the others, snatching up all the opportunities of fortune. This is too cruel, too cruel. A great treasure has appeared in the 8 Remoteness Dragon Mountain, but it was snatched away by Chu Kuangren. The other few hundred sky prides can only watch helplessly. It's not just the 8 Remoteness Dragon Mountain. Every time a great opportunity of fortune appears, Chu Kuangren snatches it away. This person is too arrogant and overbearing. What can we do? He's too strong. We're no match for him at all. This opportunity of fortune will be snatched away by him. Is there really no one who can stop him? Chu Kuangren forcefully swept away most of the opportunities of fortune in the barren forbidden area. Everywhere he went, the Sky Prides complained. At that moment, all the Sky Prides in the barren forbidden area hated Chu Kuangren so much that they could not wait to skin him alive. However, Chu Kuangren did not care about any of that. The strong survive and the weak die. That was the unchanging truth since time immemorial. If he had the strength to obtain these opportunities of fortune, then these opportunities of fortune should belong to him. What did the complaints of others have to do with him? Unlike the other Sky Prides who were complaining, Nangong Huang, Murong Xian, and the others were extremely excited these days. They did not know how many treasures they had obtained by following Chu Kuangren. The number of treasures they had seen in their entire lives was not as much as what they had obtained in the barren forbidden area. Night. The moon was bright and the stars were sparse. Somewhere in the barren forbidden area, there was a bonfire burning. A few people from the Black Heaven sect were gathered there. Aside from the Black Heaven sect, there were only 3 outsiders, namely Red Moon, Leng Ningyu, and the Mystic Sword Sentinel. As for the Radiant Sect's people, Lan Yu had already found an excuse to send them away under Chu Kuangren's instructions. Moreover, they were too embarrassed to follow Chu Kuangren. Furthermore, Chu Kuangren's actions were so flamboyant that he had become the target of many forces. Even the School of Light could not withstand it. Congratulations, host. You've obtained a legendary technique restoration card. Chu Kuangren casually drew a prize while the others were chatting. He took a look at the introduction. Cultivation technique completion card, legendary, you can choose any legendary technique. This card can be used to fill in the gaps and upgrade the technique. Chu Kuangren's eyes lit up when he saw the technique restoration card. I've really gotten what I've been missing. This restoration card, it's great that it's here. Chu Kuangren smiled. At that moment, Leng Ningyu, who was beside him, seemed to have received some news as her expression changed slightly. Brother Leng, what's wrong? Chu Kuangren asked curiously. I've just received a message from a junior sister. She wants me and Red Moon to leave Brother Chu's side as soon as possible, Leng Ningyu said. Upon hearing that, Chu Kuangren's eyes flashed as he pondered. It seems that some people want to deal with me. Chu Kuangren smiled faintly. It's not some people. Leng Ningyu shook her head and said, it's a lot of people. Oh, how many? The Wang family, the Bai family, the demonic tribe, the swordsman tribe, the runic lands, the Qin family, the 9-headed snakelet tribe, the Yin-Yang sect, the Thousand Array sect, and so on. All the Sky Prides who came to the barren forbidden area are here to deal with you. Leng Ningyu said solemnly. In her eyes, there was a hint of worry that even she did not notice. Chu Kuangren smiled faintly. Oh, even those who have heard of me and those who have never heard of me are planning to join in. This is interesting. Brother Chu, you still have the mood to joke at a time like this? Can you handle so many people? Red Moon said helplessly. She had never seen fear on this man's face before. It was as if there was nothing in this world that could scare him. How can I not handle a bunch of mobs? Chu Kuangren laughed and said, however, with so many forces here, it's not suitable for the 7 Emotions sect to join in. Your junior sister was right to send you a message. You guys should leave. It was not that he wanted to hurt Leng Ningyu and Red Moon, but with so many people here, it would be useless even if the 2 of them stayed. Chapter 598. Hey, you're making it sound like we're being immoral. After all, it's all thanks to you that we've gotten our hands on a lot of good stuff. Senior sister and I may be weak, but don't even think about letting us go. Chiyu patted his chest with a heroic look on his face. Leng Ningyu nodded. Red Moon is right. Seeing that he could not persuade the 2, Chu Kuangren did not say anything else. After all, he did not plan to let the 2 ladies participate in the battle. Suddenly, Chu Kuangren's expression changed slightly and he smiled. We have guests tonight. Everyone stop hiding and come out. Whoosh. 3 figures walked out from the dark void. Their auras were incredibly powerful, comparable to a boundary emperor's. How dare the 3 of you follow me? Isn't the Church of Darkness underestimating me a little too much? Chu Kuangren said calmly. These 3 people were from the Thuli Church, and he had a rough guess as to why they had come looking for him. Chu Kuangren, don't you know that you're about to die? One of the skinny old men said. As soon as he finished speaking, Chu Kuangren disappeared from where he was. When he reappeared, he was already holding the skinny old man by the neck, lifting him into the air like a chicken. The old man wanted to resist, but he was suppressed by an incredibly powerful spiritual power. All he could do was flail his arms and legs in the air with fear in his eyes. How dare a low-level boundary emperor act so presumptuously in front of me? Who gave you the courage? Is it that so-called dark god of yours? Chu Kuangren said. The other two cultivators' expressions changed, but they did not act rashly. They looked at Chu Kuangren with fear in their eyes. Brother Chu, let's talk this out. Boom. Before they could finish, the skinny old man who was being lifted into the air was crushed by a terrifying force. His flesh and bones exploded on the spot and blood splattered everywhere. The remaining two cultivators were as silent as cicadas in winter. Only now can we have a good talk. Chu Kuangren casually retracted his hand. His clean white robe was still spotless, and coupled with his handsome face, he looked like a refined immortal under the moonlight. Gulp. The remaining two swallowed their saliva, their faces filled with fear. Brother Chu, I'm the fourth elder of the Thuli Church. We're here to make a deal with you. A cultivator from Stygian Church said. Say it, what deal? Fellow Chu, you should know that you've offended too many cultivators in the desolate forbidden area. Your existence has made everyone restless, so they've already decided to eliminate you. And my dark church can provide you with the information of these people, as well as the means they use to deal with you. The fourth dark elder said. Then what do you want from me? I want you to tell me how you made the charming sword guard follow you and hand her over to our Thuli society. The fourth dark elder said. They had investigated the mystic sword guards and found out that they were once members of the swordsmen, but they had now betrayed the swordsman and followed Chu Kuangren. Chu Kuangren must have done something to it. At the side, the charming sword guard stood up and wanted to say something. However, Chu Kuangren waved his hand to stop her. You want the charming sword guard because of her fallen darkness physique, right? That's right. The Divine Church of Light has a bachelor sage, but our bachelor sage has fallen. We need fresh blood, and the fallen darkness physique is undoubtedly what we need. The fourth elder did not hide anything and revealed his purpose. You want the charming sword guard, sure, but I don't need you to tell me anything. I want the Dark Church to do me a favor. What favor? When the time comes, I'll look for you again. Both of them looked at each other. They did not know what Chu Kuangren was up to, so they were momentarily at a loss. Chu Kuangren said, Don't worry, I can guarantee that what I want you to do will not harm the Dark Church's interests. Who knows, you might even be willing to help me. All right. Now you can tell me how you made the charming sword guard betray the swordsman and follow you, the fourth elder said. If they did not solve this mystery, they would not dare to bring the charming sword guard back to the Dark Church. Who knew if they would betray the Dark Church like they did to the swordsman? The risks involved were too great. Poison. I have a poison pill that's specifically used to control others. If they don't want to die, they'll have to listen to me. What kind of poison pill is this? Chu Kuangren took out 2 bottles of pills and said, This is the poison pill and the antidote. If you don't believe me, you can test it. We'll test it. All right, I've given you the antidote. Take them away. Chu Kuangren glanced at the charming sword guard. She nodded slightly and stood beside the 2 Dark Church cultivators. The 3 of them glanced at Chu Kuangren before they disappeared into the night. Chu Kuangren looked at the bonfire and chuckled. In this world, what poison pill is more powerful than the soul mastery slave seal? The poison pill could only control one's body. On the other hand, the slave seal could change one's mind. The charming sword guard left with the 4th elder of the Dark Church. After they left, they went to a secret place and took out the 2 bottles of pills that Chu Kuangren gave them. One of the cultivators took out the poison pill with a determined look in his eyes. Dear God of Darkness, I'm willing to sacrifice everything for the Dark Church. Then he used his own body to test the medicine and consumed the poison pill. Beside him, the charming sword guard was shocked. These cultivators of the divine sect were really a bunch of lunatics. How do you feel? The 4th elder asked. The cultivator looked like he was in pain. There's an extremely strong poison inside my body that's corroding my body. Even with my cultivation level, I can't stop it. What a terrifying poison pill. Here, take the antidote. The 4th elder took out the antidote. After the cultivator consumed it, he frowned. The poison has been contained, but it's still there. It hasn't been neutralized. Chu Kuangren once said that this poison pill needs 7 antidotes to completely neutralize it, the charming sword guard said. The 4th elder poured out a few more antidotes. After 7 pills, the poison pill in the cultivator's body was finally neutralized. Here, charming sword guard, take this too. All right. The charming sword guard took the antidote. However, at that moment, the 4th elder suddenly grabbed her arm and channeled his spiritual power into her body to check on her condition. There's indeed poison in your body. It seems like Chu Kuangren wasn't lying. After a while, the fourth elder let go with an apologetic look on his face. Please forgive us, charming sword guard. For the sake of the Dark Church we have to be more cautious. It's all right, I understand. The charming sword guard nodded, but deep down she was thankful. Fortunately, Chu Kuangren had indeed created the poison pill for the charming sword guard to consume in order to make the act more realistic. Otherwise their cover would have been blown. Charming sword guard, follow us back to the Dark Church. We'll hold a coronation ceremony for you. From now on you'll be the sacred lady of the Dark Church. The Dark Church's resources will be given to you to help you fight for the throne of this world. The fourth elder said solemnly. I'm more than satisfied to be free from Chu Kuangren's control. Chu Kuangren killed our sacred sage. We'll never forget this grudge. However, he's currently at the peak of his power, so it's not wise to fight him head-on. We'll definitely take revenge in the future. The fourth elder snorted coldly. Beside him, a cold glint flashed across the charming sword guard's eyes. Trying to harm our master? Once I gain a foothold in the Dark Church, I'll deal with you first. Chapter 599. The ancient Path Lake was one of the great opportunities of fortune within the barren Forbidden area. The Dao Lake's opportunities of fortune would appear in the near future. Logically speaking, the area around the Dao Lake should be bustling with activity as sky prides would gather at this time. However, there were very few people around the Dao Lake at this moment. On a mountain peak not far away from the ancient Path Lake, a large number of sky prides had gathered and were looking in the direction of the Dao Lake. Each and every one of them was a sky pride. Among them there were even a few forbidden sky prides. They seemed to be discussing something as they gathered together. If this scene was recorded with an image recording stone and uploaded to the public, it would definitely cause a huge commotion. After all, these forbidden sky prides were all prideful individuals who were often compared to others. Hence, when they met on a normal day they would definitely fight each other openly or secretly. Aside from a few who were on good terms with each other, who would gather together peacefully to talk. Not to mention this included the human clan and the beast clan. It was unimaginable. Yet now this scene was happening right in front of everyone. And the one who unknowingly made this happen was none other than Chu Kuangren. The pressure he exerted on everyone was so great that the forbidden sky prides had no choice but to unite against him. When faced with a common enemy, even enemies who were usually at odds with each other would temporarily put aside their prejudices and join forces. Do you guys think Chu Kuangren will really come? Jiao Yin of the ancient wild beast nine-headed snakelet tribe said. He will, Wang Quan replied with a serious look. He will. Jiao Yin sneered and said, there's no way Chu Kuangren wouldn't notice such a huge commotion. Do you really think he'll come when all the sky prides in the barren forbidden area are gathered against him? He will. Wang Quan continued to repeat, he is a heaven's pride, a peerless heaven's pride since ancient times. His pride doesn't allow him to cower, so he will definitely come. Wang Quan was not the only one who thought so. Bai Hongyu, Zi Wuji, and the other forbidden sky prides thought so too. It was said that the person who understood you the most might be your enemy. That was true. Wang Quan and the others had fought Chu Kuangren a few times. Although they were defeated every time, they could feel his arrogance. That arrogance of looking down on everyone in the world. To Chu Kuangren we're all just defeated opponents. What kind of threat can a group of defeated opponents like us pose to him? How could he possibly give up the opportunity of fortune in front of him for us? Wang Quan sneered. He had already seen through Chu Kuangren's thoughts. Upon hearing his words, the sky prides who had fought against Chu Kuangren before did not look happy at all. However, none of them refuted him. That was because they were indeed defeated by Chu Kuangren. Humph, it is precisely because of this mentality that he will fail this time. At that moment, a young man in a yin-yang Taoist robe spoke out coldly. This person was the forbidden genius of the yin-yang god sect, Yin Luozi. That's right. This time, we've set up multiple killing formations around the ancient Taoist lake. Even if Chu Kuangren has 3 heads and 6 arms, he won't be able to escape no matter how strong his combat strength is. Another forbidden sky pride said. This person wore a long white robe and held an array disc in his hand. He was the array child of the 10,000 array sect. The 10,000 array sect was the best at setting up array formations. Legend had it that if the array child was given enough time to set up the array formation, he could even kill an emperor realm cultivator. Although no one knew if this rumor was true, The fact that such a rumor had been passed down in the world was enough to show how powerful this person was. Besides that, my clan brother will be coming as well, a young man said. He was not a forbidden Sky Pride, but a top-notch Sky Pride from the Qin clan. However, his words made everyone's eyes light up. Will that person be coming as well? Among all the Sky Prides, I think he's the only one who has the ability to fight Chu Kuangren. If he's here, we'll have more confidence. At the mention of that person, even the forbidden Sky Prides could not help but become serious. That person was the brightest existence among the Emperor Path's Sky Prides. The Qin clan's forbidden master, who was known as the reincarnation of a great emperor. Let's continue to pay attention. Looking at the time, the opportunity of fortune at the ancient Taoist lake is about to appear. If Chu Kuangren is coming, it should be about time. Everyone looked towards the direction of the ancient Taoist lake. Some had fiery gazes, while others had expectant gazes. Rumor has it that the primeval Taoist essence produced by the ancient Taoist lake is one of the most valuable treasures in this world. Aside from being able to increase one's cultivation level, it can also allow one to gain enlightenment quickly. It's extremely rare. Not only that, but it's said that the primeval Taoist essence can also increase one's physical strength to the point where one can stand shoulder to shoulder with an ancient wild beast. If it was in the past, the primeval Taoist essence would be the focus of everyone's attention. However, now the Taoist essence could only serve as a foil. The Sky Prides were more concerned about the upcoming battle, and the unparalleled demon who was going to fight against all the Sky Prides by himself. The ancient Taoist lake was located at the top of a mountain. The lake water was as clear as a mirror, and both sides were lush with greenery. It was like a paradise on earth. Today, however, ripples suddenly appeared on the ancient Taoist lake. The ripples grew larger and larger, and gradually turned into a wave that swept in all directions. In the middle of the ancient Taoist lake, the lake water tumbled and white waves surged as if something was about to break out of the water. At the bottom of the lake, a ball of white light grew brighter and brighter. Accompanied by a pillar of water that shot into the sky, that ball of white light also emerged from the water's surface. It was a white ball of light the size of a baby, and there were countless mysterious light patterns circulating within it as if it was reflecting the laws of nature. Those were Taoist patterns. Those were Taoist patterns, the mysteries of Taoism. It was a phenomenon that would only manifest when a Taoist rhyme had reached a certain level of concentration. On the mountain peak several dozen kilometers away, many Sky Prides had already seen the primeval Taoist essence that had rushed out of the ancient Taoist lake. Everyone's eyes were glued to that Taoist essence. Their breaths were extremely heavy, and they could not wait to rush out and fight for it. That's the primeval Taoist essence. Such intense energy fluctuations, and the Taoist rhyme that it contains has even formed into Taoist patterns. This is too mysterious. If I can refine this primeval Taoist essence, then my Taoist Tao will definitely reach a perfect state. That's right. When that time comes, I won't have to worry about not being able to fight against Chu Kuangren. Many Sky Prides had fiery eyes. Even the forbidden Sky Prides were a little tempted. They did not expect the primeval Taoist essence to appear this time to be so tempting. The opportunity of fortune was too great. Calm down, everyone. Don't forget the purpose of our trip here. At that moment, Wang Quan snorted coldly. Upon hearing his words, everyone gradually calmed down. They must not be impulsive. What could they do even if they rushed out and snatched it? They were no match for Chu Kuangren. It's here. At that moment, Bai Hongyu's gaze froze. Everyone's hearts instantly trembled as they looked towards the mountain path that led to the ancient Taoist lake. Then, a set of steady and powerful footsteps echoed on the mountain path as a figure slowly walked towards the ancient Taoist lake. That person had a tall and slender figure, and his white robe was spotless. His handsome face was flawless, and the corner of his mouth was curled up into a smile that seemed to be mocking them. As expected, he will definitely not miss out on the primeval Taoist essence of the ancient Taoist lake. Wang Quan took a deep breath and said. At that moment, everyone's attention was drawn to that white-robed figure, and their gazes gradually turned solemn. Everyone, let's get ready to move. That you're tuning in to the Han Li's Wuxia Chronicles YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.